Check one. We're gonna says I'm live. Drag in back. So, gonna try. I don't know if that's though any. There we go. Some. Let me just a second. I don't know if back or if any thoughts today. So no sound. Let's see. Check one. Here, checking this one. And I don't know what the heck that is. Check one, check. Super. Make me crazy. Because one, two, one, check two. Check, check, check. It's all right. Try another option. Check. That we are looking at a the sprawling parts of this. I mean, where it has led, including leaks about a sealed indictment against Julian Assange. Even WikiLeaks was posting that a DOJ jet visited. It was in London with theoretically there to pick up Julian Assange, and somehow, in that main, to leave. By the way, they're seeing all sorts of this, and in doing so, the idea that this is done sort of absurd. But some of the callers, but other people as well. Who do we have?
We have Seattle.
Okay, Paul, welcome.
How you doing?
I'm.
I same way. Maybe I'll different term. That the media about Hillary. It's leaving your camp fighting
Yeah.
a whole bunch of that are not good. Is this tons, all kinds of things go wrong, and to try and think there's voter support, this stuff. The fact that us couldn't get enthusiastic to vote in the deal of college, Hillary Clinton. No, she won. So I to after see man, rules never have been thinking about this. Can't a teacher or and do something better? Is I think what is to the process really.
Yes,
done.
I expect. Wants this handled, in very group human being, especially when you orient the Constitution after he, I think it, in terms of Trump's feeling overall is that he was gonna the report was gonna finish. That's gonna be the end of it, and my guys are going to fend off what is effectively a PR attack for the rest of my presidency until I run for office, and I will be able to run this situation. I will be able to protect myself, using my, just basically my standard PR attacks. This is a witch hunt. This is, it's all fake news. There's no collusion. All these things he is going to be hoping, and thank you guys in the chat for being patient with me. We finally fixed what the audio is. I had to do some major math during the break, which we're going to take another one real quick, and I'll chat with you guys in the chat room. I thank you guys so much for hanging in there. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Yeah, guys in the chat room, I love you guys. I apologize for that. It's just like the amount of juggling I had to do. I literally had to look at for their new setup. I basically, the auto default of streaming on the old one was 64 bits, and you have to go in factors of it, but 128 wasn't cutting it, and it created the buzz again and stuff. So I think I figured out what actually did it though. I think Chud solved it. You tell him, Chud. Yeah. Because not only, yeah, I know, 128, 256. I tried 3 of them, and then I cycled back through, and I ended up having to change the frame rate to match. That was what eventually did it. Of course, it meant I had to start from scratch, so I don't have any of my graphics up or any of that kind of stuff. But audio-wise, it all sounds good to you guys? Everything? That, no audio from Chud. Oh, it's sad. She's purring away. You can kind of hear some of her. She crawled up on my leg while I was working, like claws and all. Oh, God, it was rough. So thank you guys for hanging in there. I really appreciate it. Chud, you're actually on my headphones, so you can't. I love you, but you got to get down. Okay, thank you. Oh, God. The claws in my leg. Unbelievable. All right. and cat fur. All right, so, yeah, she's shedding. Okay, so now we can get into real show, and we will have a post show today. Now that I've solved that, I was hell bent on us at least having a post show, no matter what. So, fix that business. Yeah. Oh my God.
25 seconds, and Max still on hold.
Max or Matt? Sorry. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Now let's get back with HealthSpark's radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe we finally got audio and video and everything is up at YouTube, and thank you guys for hanging in there. I like this. Trying to do 3 things at once is a hilarious act of silliness that I end up finding myself doing. So thank you guys for being understanding. And we have another caller online I want to get to too before we get too far into the next segment. So who do we have there, Lady B?
We have Max from North Carolina.
Excellent. Hey, Max. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Go ahead.
I see 2 real big problems with that. The first one is, I was in Philadelphia for 7 days, okay, during the Democratic Convention.
Yep.
And we were seeing, people that were delegates that were supporting Bernie were coming out and saying stuff, or they were tweeting, and they were tweeting months before that. Okay, but then we didn't see anything on WikiLeaks. Okay, so then later on we did, but they didn't have anything that we already heard. So so Trump had nothing to do, with leaking anything to WikiLeaks, whatever. That didn't happen. Okay,
by what measure? By what measure are you saying that?
Well, what I'm saying is that basically when they're saying that Trump had the Russians interfere in the election for Hillary and stuff like that, or
no, I don't think he had them do it. I don't think he had them do it. I think they were planning on being spoilers anyways. I don't think they picked Trump to win. I think they picked Trump to make him a contender. I think they affected. They were obviously they were.
Our media, our worthless media,
our worthless media
were there, and
worthless.
The only thing that I seen them interviewing were dogs, people with dogs talking about their dogs and stuff.
What?
And not
that was the only interviews you saw. Wait. So our media is worthless because you saw people being interviewed with their dogs at the DNC.
No, I saw them with their cameras on the dogs and talking about their dogs while not asking about why do we have thousands of Americans from all over the United States over here protesting the way that our democracy is run. Okay, why do we have that? That should have been the issue.
Which protests are you talking about? The Women's March?
The 7 days of protesting at the Democratic Convention.
By whom?
We had.
By whom?
You actually didn't see it on the news, or I didn't see any of it.
Which protesting? I mean, there were multiple protesters. There's multiple protesters protesting against Hillary Clinton. The Bernie supporters, you mean?
Oh yeah, you bet. Okay, but
we saw that. It was just inconsequential to the argument.
No. Okay, then you weren't watching the real argument. You weren't watching.
Well, apparently I couldn't because the useful media wasn't the useless media wasn't putting it forward. What?
Useless media. Yeah,
right. So the media is useless. Okay, but no. Let's finish our main point. So your argument is that Bernie supporters were making the case that he deserved the nomination. Is that what you're talking about? That protest?
No. I'm saying it went the way that it went, but people needed to know why Hillary was the nominee.
So why, in your estimation, was Hillary the nominee?
Okay, why is because
in your estimation?
Because our school system sucks, and people.
Because our what system sucks?
As they're growing up.
Because wait. Hold on. So, hold it together. Hold it together. Why, in your estimation, was Hillary Clinton the nominee for the Democratic Party?
Why?
Yeah.
I just said our school system sucks. People believe that.
Did you go to our school system? Did you go? Where did you go to school? Wait, where did you go to school?
You see now, because I travel. I work in most of the states in the United States.
You work in most of the states of the United States.
So I work on sailboats.
Okay, that's great.
Okay,
but wait. Okay, if you hold. No. This is fun. So you work on sailboats. So you work in most of the states in the United States. So all right. Where did you go to school? Where did you go to school? Where did you go to school?
I actually work up in Chicago. I go up there quite often.
Okay.
Work on that Mackinac.
Sure, I've sailed in it myself.
Okay. Well, I do a lot of the boats that actually
awesome.
There.
So our school system. Wait a minute. So your estimation is that Hillary Clinton was the nominee of the Democratic Party, not because she was a senator from New York and Secretary of State, and she ran for the nomination as a Democrat in the Democratic Party and won within it, whereas Bernie Sanders, not being a Democrat, ran as an independent using the Democratic Party as a super PAC and was rejected therein, and that the party itself favored a Democrat instead of an independent, who, by the way, did not remain a Democrat.
But the thing is, this is supposed to be about the people.
It is about the people. The Democratic Party is an organization of people. No. The Democratic Party is an organization of people of a politically aligned nature who agree on a set of principles regularly with conventions and everything else. And they use the name and the label Democrat as when they run for office because it is indicative of a set of values. They align themselves with that. They operate within that parameter. And then when it comes time to run for office as a Democrat, they are afforded the protections and uses of that party structure to run for office. Independents, however, do not attach themselves to the governing concepts of any political party, Republican or Democrat or Green or Libertarian or, giant spaghetti monster. None whatsoever. But at some point when they run for office, they can choose to align themselves with a party. It would seem, in some cases, if they chose to do that they would remain in that party if they believed that they had either moved that party successfully in a direction towards themselves or were going to run again. But the reality is, your feeling is that because Bernie Sanders, an independent who ran for the nomination in the Democratic Party and lost, and that led to protests by his supporters who didn't view themselves as Democrats to start with, certainly don't now, that is indicative of our school system being bad, and that it's also indicative of the innocence of Donald Trump and his engagement with Vladimir Putin and the Internet Research Agency and the other 37 indicted entities in the Mueller report. Do you think the fact that Hillary Clinton was the nominee for the Democratic Party is an excuse for Donald Trump is effectively a declaration of his innocence?
You know what? Let me tell you something. If we end up at the same situation, we're going to support Donald Trump again.
Oh, so you voted? Wait, you voted? Wait, you voted for Donald Trump then?
That we have.
Wait, you voted for Donald Trump?
Get away from that.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
No, I wrote in Bernie Sanders, but I'm saying.
Why would you write in someone who wasn't actually running? Why would you write in someone who wasn't actually running? Why would you write in someone who wasn't actually running?
Going to be the one that we came over here to North Carolina, where this is a swing state, and we started going around.
So you went to a North Carolina swing state and you wrote in someone. Wait. So you went to North Carolina, a swing state, and wrote in a candidate for someone who wasn't running.
Okay, so no, we went around.
Who was, by the way, supporting Hillary Clinton at that point.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton. No, people like Hillary Clinton do not need to be in office. Okay, because they do nothing for the American people.
What?
Okay, people like that, no.
So S-chip. So you're saying S-chip was a mistake?
of it. And I supported SPIC. I was actually up in
You don't
Washington
now.
with a
You
sign.
supported. You don't now. You supported.
No,
you supported. You wrote in a candidate. You wrote in a candidate that was not running for office and undermined the voting structure that led to Donald Trump getting in office.
No. What
You
I'm
supported
saying is
Donald
that
Trump in the
SPIC
last
is
election.
good for the people, but not all the money that they get to Wall Street.
What?
Okay, and that's the part that Hillary voted for. Just like the same way with Medicare, the Medicare for all right now. The way that we have Obamacare, okay, is good for the people, but half of that goes to Wall Street. Okay, so Wall Street is making a lot of money off of it. Look at the stock market.
Which part of Wall Street does it go to?
Okay, what part of Wall Street? It goes once our tax dollars go into Medicare, some of that money, 2/3 of it goes into the system, into the healthcare system. 1/3 of it goes into the stock market. Okay, and that's a fact. If you don't believe
a third of your Medicare, a third of the tax dollars. You're saying a third of the tax dollars that go into.
They're making. We're not paying more for healthcare than we did 10 years ago.
A third.
I pay for my own healthcare. Okay, so I know that for a fact. We pay the same amount as we paid 10 years ago. Why are they making all this money? They're making all this money because they're taking it from our tax dollars. That's why.
Right, and how does that actually get? I'm curious to find out because you obviously absorbed a better education from the school system than most people did. How does the money allocated to Medicare by Congress go a third of it go into the stock market to benefit Wall Street? What in what form does that go?
Or Medicare or Obamacare. Okay, that right there, that money right there goes into whoever you have. If you have, I don't want to say the healthcare companies because I actually like some of them. So if you have these healthcare companies in the state and they want to work with the Obamacare, then they're going to get money from that. While that money doesn't all go into the healthcare system, 1/3 of it minimum. I know for a fact my son had cancer. Okay, so I know for a fact how much money I had to pay. All right, we kept all our receipts, $520,000 worth of receipts, and not just us, other people that work with us. 5 other people that we know that survived. While some of them died, that survived health care that we still work with, they kept theirs too. So that's how we know how much money goes into the actual healthcare system and how much of it goes into the pockets of the CEOs. Okay, and the stock market. That's how we know that.
I'm still curious about how the I'm curious about how it. No. I'm curious about how it ends up in the stock market in your way of thinking. Because
how it ends up in the stock market. Okay, they're going to pay. They pay. Okay, so say the name of the healthcare company. Which one?
Purdue Pharmaceutical, the Sacklers, who should go to jail.
Red Shield. Okay, say it goes into Red Shield. Red Shield in your state.
No, let's talk about the specifics of it. Purdue Pharmaceutical. They're one of the people who need to be regulated.
That money, you look at it in the stock market, you'll see all these people signed up for it.
My friend, I have to get to my friend. I have to get to a break, but I have to say to you out loud and directly to you. You are extraordinarily deluded about this. You are looking for confirmation bias around certain things, and you are cutting off your nose to spite your face because you are angry about a level of unfairness that is not attached to the reality of our electoral process. And I think you need to look at that. We got to take a break. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Was that amazing or what? I'm always curious about people who go, we have a terrible education system and everybody's stupid nowadays. And you're like, that would include you, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Like, it's a little hard to go, our high schools teach people to be robots, man. Did you go to high school? Yeah, but, I managed. Whatever. Not me. I mean, I'm special. I can see through it. I've got my special QAnon decoder ring. In the case, it did include it. Right. Like, you might be an example of crappy education, sir. It might be, you might want to, just saying.
I'm sorry, Hal, you was trying to get me?
No. I was talking to the chat. No fear or whatever. Is there anybody else, any other callers? I was keeping that guy on kind of extra long, but he was fun.
We got one more, but I don't know about him.
Why?
He's Ron from Michigan, and he said, well, Trump deserved to say he defended ISIS.
Defeated ISIS.
Defeated ISIS.
Sure, I can have him on. That's not a problem.
All right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't mind dealing with folks like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back. So we have another caller, too. So who do we have, Lady B? Let's get to this.
We have Ron from Michigan.
Cool. Hey, Ron, welcome.
Hello, Hal. Hal, this goes to Joe Biden as a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
When we got ourselves stuck into Syria, that was under President Obama.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all with the Arab Spring and, all these high hopes, which I never really saw coming to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But when we stuck our nose into Syria, and that opened the door to the other radical Islamist radical groups that come in there, ISIS, you name it. And we kind of aided and abetted them by backing the democratic Syrian forces.
Mm-hmm.
And, I hate to say this, but under Trump and the Russians, they did stamp out ISIS. Of course, we helped. But if we had never stuck our nose in there, we never would have had to tamp down the problem.
Well, they moved in. ISIS had moved in from the surrounding areas into their because they thought they could break up part of the country and add it to the caliphate was the idea. So even before we were a factor in there, that was one of the reasons we ended up in there was the idea we were chasing them into Syria. The only reason we seemed to be interested in the Syrian civil war in a lot of ways and what Assad was doing was essentially because if his efforts were either unsuccessful, either the main the rebel group or he himself. And this was sort of the what part does Russia want to play in it? What part do we want to play in it? What side were we on? If either of those fail, ISIS has a huge chunk of that country to operate from. And Israel has a large, has a a big fear of that aspect. So in many ways, we went into Syria in protection of Israel. We have, and hence the sort of Trump Golan Heights stuff this week, which they're walking back. But initially, if you'll recall, in January, Trump wanted to pull out before we were done in Syria, in theory. It said we were going to, tweeted as much, said, I'm pulling everybody out, we're done. He even said to Erdogan, you can have it, and was all ready to go. And it was Bolton and Pompeo who told him to stay in there. And that's why we finished what we were doing in there, because they felt we were close and that this long, 8-year project, or 6.5-year, or whatever project, was coming to a close, and he was actually getting out too early.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there, Hal, but, it just seems that whenever there's a chance for us to stick our nose, we do, and it always gets bloody real bad, and it's just so hard to get it out. It all goes back.
Well, I think that's part. You're not wrong, but here's what I would say is I think we view war as civilians most of the time, not in a geostrategic viewpoint, but in a sort of World War II standpoint. We view the gold standard of war and military intervention as being us fighting the Nazis in World War II, right? That seems to be what it should be like. Horrible, obvious villain. We roll in, lay waste to them with a couple of other allies, come home, ticker tape parade, end of story, right? And then get about, by the way, reestablishing tenuous but diplomatic and humanitarian ties with that enemy, getting them back on their feet almost. You know what I mean? Like our obviously East-West Berlin, East-West Germany, post-World War II being a factor for decades. But overall, the idea is that eventually we're going to get to leveling back to that. In the Middle East, this is clearly resource warfare. And there are two groups. I think there's three groups, because I would view myself as part of the third group, and I wouldn't doubt that you're probably in it as well, which is, it's not about whether or not we should be fighting wars about oil. It's that the effort we put forward in fighting wars about oil and resources and whatnot, if we had spent it on coming up with other energy sources, it would have cost fewer lives and less money, and pushed us forward as a country industrially, and been better for our economic bottom line, certainly for our morality. That's where I land. That had we put $3 to $7 trillion post 9/11 into a new infrastructure for the United States, like not only can you not knock down our buildings and transform our country, but we're gonna just to show you, we're gonna reinvest. We're gonna legalize gay marriage. We're gonna pass the Equal Rights Amendment. We're gonna invest all the money we would have spent going to war in our own broadband infrastructure and the like, those kind of things. Like, that would have been the smart direction to go. And I think a lot of people feel that way. But there are some realists.
Absolutely right.
Yes. But there are some realists in the world that, while I differ with them in theory, I will occasionally at least grant them room to make their argument, in that if we're in a reality-based resource circumstance, that they're going to say, look, if we don't take this, the Russians will, and it won't be about oil after a while, it'll be about land and people. And they will dictate how these people act. And those people, once they are dictated in what they are allowed to do, either by the Chinese or by the Russians, will affect long-term the strength or ability to have a functioning democracy. And that is of a geopolitical concern beyond the resource war that we are currently fighting. So yes, there is a resource aspect to this, but once that we crest that hill, there is a whole other series of expectations that we will have to deal with. And that's their job, and that's what they think about all the time. Now, I think they can also have blinders on. They can have, they can be hyper-focused on that. But I don't think they're instantly wrong or evil or completely just kind of greedy, or that there's this kind of blatant use of like our last caller, who was just using Wall Street like a hammer word, as if like he doesn't have a bank card and a debit card. You know what I mean? It's absurd. So in terms of Syria, Bill Clinton said that the biggest regret of his presidency was Rwanda, was not going in. And I think some presidents, when confronted with this information, and I don't think Trump is one of them, have this hanging over their head that if we could have done something, and 2 million people weren't wiped out over the course of 10 years, and I could have played a part in that, and I didn't because of my political concerns, when we as a country have 6 times the military of all other industrial countries combined, where does that put me in the moral arc of the world? So I do think it's a factor, and I don't think Obama went in just because we need to stick our noses in places, if that makes sense.
Well, it's a good explanation, but then it goes back to Joe Biden. Is he going to be the same?
I don't think so.
Have the same propensity to jump so quick into another conflict that I think can be avoided.
Well, and I respect that idea that it can be avoided, and I do think that as a citizenry and Congress should certainly push back on this and test the argument therein, and I think we are all certainly burned by the BS, modifying and falsifying of intelligence that came out of the Bush administration that makes us rightfully distrustful of intervention going forward. That being said, as adults, we often are forced to make genuinely difficult decisions about these kind of things. And on some people who have made those decisions in the past learn from them and shift. And other people who have never made those decisions will find themselves in a situation where they will make a knee-jerk decision about it because they're late in the game and something must be done, Mr. President. And that's where I was arguing all along that the day after Bernie Sanders' first drone strike, there is a huge drop-off in his support. And it would happen. President Bernie Sanders would absolutely, maybe fewer, maybe you would believe that he was more selective about it, but there is no question that at some point he would do it because it is easier to write off the cost of a blown-up drone than 5 flag-draped coffins. And if you're making that decision as a president and you're going, sir, we have images of a truck and it's headed towards this town and we know it's loaded up with bombs and we know it's going to attack this thing because we have intelligence about it, and the truck is on its way and we can hit it with troops or a drone strike, what decision do you make? Not maybe even what your opinion of Bernie Sanders in that circumstance is. Maybe he says it's none of my business and he crosses his hands and lets it play out because it's not us. Or maybe he goes, we have a strategic, engagement with this particular country, and we have troops on the ground, and what are my options? And he weighs it and he goes, send in helicopters, send in, have a drone do it. And what if his decision-making process takes too long and that truck is now closer to a region or an area which has civilians in it? These are all realistic things to decide on that are way, easier to kind of talk about and use phrases like we use, like sticking our nose in places or talking about Wall Street while using a debit card every single day, or the Starbucks app, and arguing about corporations that are a factor in there. Does it mean you don't push back on this? Absolutely not. But it also, we should be a little more, sober in our reflection of these circumstances. And recognize the difference between someone who has the intellectual capacity to make a decision about this. Oh, hey, all right, I guess we're taking a break. Someone who has the intellectual capacity to make a decision about this, whether or not you would agree with it at face or not, versus writing in someone who isn't even running in an election because you're mad about a woman who is completely qualified to be president because quote, corporations, because, quote, Wall Street, and willfully in a swing state, and knowing that that will aid and abet Donald Trump, who is, by all measures, guilty of RICO offenses and playing footsie with a foreign power. There's a lot to that. So I'm just saying, we should all watch our language, and I'm certainly guilty of it on occasion too. And I'm not beyond hyperbole, and I will, I've made a commitment in the last few months, especially to be more aware of that. But well, let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. I'm all for, having somebody in office who doesn't believe in interventionist wars for the sake of resources and the like. I am not willing, though, to let the George W. Bush presidency cloud my view going forward of genuine circumstances where the United States can be a force for good in the world. That's the difference. Can we make that assessment? Can you look at this without that lens? And that's the damage of the Bush presidency. And there will be similar damage in the Trump presidency around this. We'll be back. Mm-hmm. Oh, the troll caller. He's long gone. Back to Jupiter. I don't know that, I don't know that either of them were troll callers. I mean, I think the guy, the Bernie guy was just a true believer, and I have intellectual issues with his argument, and I find the idea that he is, in some way a victim in all this, that Sanders is a victim of the evil Hillary machine, to be childish. And I don't mind saying so. But I also am fine. I'm much better, I'm much more comfortable arguing, that, the merits of the differences between them than this, nobody even covered our protests. They were just interviewing dogs. You know what I mean? Come on. Hey, Zelda, what's happening? Hi, Carrie. It's good to see you again. My favorites in the Dem race are Warren, Buttigieg, Castro, Delaney, Yang, and Harris. Yeah, I agree. I lean more towards Harris. And I do think Biden-Harris is a winning ticket that ultimately leads in her being president too. But I certainly think she's qualified either way. I want to get them in office, though. I'm a realist about the actual voting aspect of it. And, the generalized agreement across the board is that Biden can beat Trump if he runs again, which he will. But again, it's just, I like all of them. I got no problem with any of them. I feel that's a good, comfortable space to be in. And I'm not going to get all, the biggest part, the argument back and forth.
5 seconds.
Okay, excellent. The
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
So, Abramson in his tweet thread that is nearly as long as I think the book he has coming out, he goes, whether or not it was the plan, and I'm not saying it was one thing that is clear is that Mueller not indicting Kushner makes it difficult for him to say he won't cooperate with Congress, including counterintelligence probes, HPSCI, SSCI, because he may face indictment. Whether or not Mueller factored this into his thinking, I can say, based on my own experience and professional judgment, that a prosecutor would rather extend probes that may lead to Kushner facing real justice than charge him with lesser crimes and unleash bedlam now. All this explains how misleading the, quote, Russia probe is over line the media is using is. But what about Trump? Any lie he told voters of which the Kremlin knew the truth of the matter was a point of blackmail for Putin. For instance, the details of his secret Moscow tower deals. It is a crime. Is it a crime to trade U.S. foreign policy for a tower? Yes. It could be conspiracy, aiding and abetting, money laundering, RICO, or even bribery, depending on the facts. If Mueller had 89% proof of it, it'd stay in counter intel. If he had 90% proof, he still couldn't indict. So, some Trump possibilities. 1, 90% proof of collusive crime, but can't indict Trump, only refer him for impeachment. So the report may be a referral towards impeachment. 2, close to 90% proof, meaning it says it stays in counter intel, but could become a referral for indictment later if any of the guys, if Stone rolls over the WikiLeaks stuff that's coming up as he's facing jail time. Which, by the way, all this stuff about all these guys, it's it being over. Understand that both Gates, Manafort, Flynn, and others have their sentencing coming up. There is still, the special prosecutor is still the prosecutor of record in those cases. And in some cases they double up or they've handed them off, but they will be in court about these folks, and they will be talking and shaking new information loose. And this in and of itself, this is me going out on a limb at the end of the show, but why not? And let me see if Seth actually says it, because he's got one more. He goes, number 3 is well less than 90% proof, meaning it's stays in counter intel. Number 4, threat neutralized, as there is 0 proof Trump is compromised. That would close the counter intel case altogether, but just based on public evidence, that conclusion would be impossible for the FBI or CIA to draw. Okay, so those are his Trump possibilities. I'm going to go out on the limb that releasing this report and saying no further indictments are planned, as opposed to none will happen, which is a very big difference. None are planned, could be an act of instigating hubris on the part of Trump and giving him enough room to make more stupid admissions in public. Many of which could be used against him, when and if he is subpoenaed to come before Congress. And the idea that that Hillary Clinton sat for as long as she did, or that Ronald Reagan was for Iran-Contra was brought before the Congress, that Trump would somehow be able to dodge it, seems a bit ridiculous. But the timing of this report coming when it does, and saying what it it's supposedly comprehensive in its report, and the fact that the intelligence and judiciary committees will have access to the all the evidence gathered, including all of Cohen's recordings, including all the emails and back and forth that they have, any physically written materials, because they have that stuff. If Trump gets called before the judiciary or the intelligence committees, this gives them a window for the, timing wise. This report comes out. He can talk out of his butt for the next 2 months, fight a subpoena, and then end up testifying around August, because that seems to be the month of pain in this presidency. Every August, there's some noise when it's supposed to be a dead month, that towards the end of summer and the beginning of September, as we, really arch into the a year from the election, it will be a huge deal going forward. And the president himself, giving him enough room to talk out of his butt for 3 months or 2 months, and then the House being able to call him with the evidence from the special counsel and the summary or the ideas that, the suggestions put forth by the special counsel, which I would agree would probably a referral for impeachment, on the belief that indicting a sitting president should be secondary to impeachment. That is a very strong possibility. I would rest on that being actually a very strong possibility. So, and either way, we still have Roger Stone, Mike Flynn, and Gates to be sentenced. And Gates is still cooperating to some extent, even so far as no future indictments are planned. And maybe it's because they're not planned because they're waiting on a piece of information. They're not going to plan. You wouldn't plan an indictment on a piece of intel or evidence that you didn't know for a fact was coming. You wouldn't make a plan about that. So why would you say there was a plan? And again, the storyline that there are no more indictments coming comes from a DOJ official who may or may not have even seen the report. We don't know. What we do know is that 37 entities, individuals, and organizations were indicted by Robert Mueller already, and that there are 30 times more sealed indictments in the D.C. circuit right now than there are normally, and 14 new ones since last August, one of which involves WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. This is just the beginning. We'll be back next week. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Stick around for the post show. We'll actually have a real post show this time since the first hour was a bit of a wash. Bless you guys in the chat for sticking around. We'll be, and if those of you listening on WCPT, stick around for Dick K. I wanna get on your hand, see my reflection in your baby blues when I leave in the Monday. Amazing. Cool. So no more purity police. I think that's wise. Okay, hold for a second, guys. I'm going to check on something, and then I'll be right back to start the post show. Give me 1 second. Some of these graphics have just crapped out. I don't know why. Let's see if I can fix that. There you go. That's gone. Let's try to do that. Give me 1 second. I got it solved. Yeah. Okay. I'm just glad it wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. I'm back. Hi, chat room. Give me 1 second, and I will be up with you guys again in just a second. There we go. Try this. All right. So, go in my, yeah. So, all right, post-show regular. Good to see you guys. Hi. What's happening? Yeah, what all else? Chud is definitely the tech fixer or whatever. And again, Carrie, I'm so glad you're here. I feel like we haven't seen you in ages. Welcome back. Thanks so much. Julie was here for a little bit, and then it was just tormenting audio, so I think she bailed out, and I appreciate that. She's not even sure 100% what country she's in right now. So, Julie, wherever you are, I hope you're well. And there you go. And Carl, thank you for holding down the fort and keeping me abreast of the technical issues. Let's see. One way to look at our candidates was expressed by Buzz Burbank on Bob Seska's show. Face it, we're choosing from a used car lot. If you're looking for someone with no flaws, you're being unrealistic. I mean, here's the thing. I would argue, look at any of the candidates the way you look at your own emotional and personal past. And if you can throw a stone at that glass house, knock yourself out. Happy birthday, EO. Everybody wish happy birthday to EO for me. Yes, donate and volunteer as you have time. Absolutely. What about some camera on cats? They come and go at their own leisure. So I can't say 100%. I'm super busy on Saturdays for various reasons over the past couple of months. Well, we're just glad you're here. Do your ears go to 11? Yes, they do. Aren't these cool? These are fun. Thank you. Don't choose anyone until we see the debates, at least. Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, you can have some favorites and be supportive of people, but I think in general, spread the love around. All of them are going to be a good pushback against Trump, so I think it's pretty awesome. So, and it's let's see, right now Russiagate is the hot take from James Woods is Clinton, Strzok, Page, and McCabe need to have their passports revoked. Hashtag Russiagate. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. QAnon. Okay, so Russiagate's the hashtag that they're punching up to try and get. What will Meta do now? Double down or actually do journalism? Says RT, crying for indictments, man. The unremarkable conclusion that there's been a heavy blow for Russiagate. High praise as Rachel Maddow by some accounts. RT. Mute. There's. Thank you very much, Decay. You can always tell when the blues kicks in. Preckwinkle, because she's against the Cop Academy. Huh? Right now, my favorite is the Democratic nominee. Yeah, it's a good choice. What do you mean? What? I am not familiar with that entire sentence, Carrie. Preckwinkle because she is against the Cop Academy? I don't know. All the LGBT groups are siding with lesbian Lori Lightfoot, and that bothers me because she is for the Cop Academy. Yes, James Woods has lost his mind. Elizabeth Warren's CNN town hall is fantastic. I agree. SDNY has to arrest the entire crime family. We'll see. There's definitely going to be ramifications for the. Let's see. This is the is Roadcaster. What we're getting audio from? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I don't need any of the other things plugged in. Audio is okay for everybody. Check. Because I'm gonna pull this other cable that I shouldn't have had to run in the first place when I was trying to solve all the secondary problems. Oh, it's really hard to get into the reasons why this Cop Academy is bad for Chicago on here. Okay. This Cop Academy, I'm just not familiar with. The Chicago Police Academy? Yeah. Audio is 5x5. Excellent. Glad to hear it. So, but I'll take your word for it for the time being. Just kind of clarifying. Audio is perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks very much. I would follow BYP 100 and other black activist groups in Chicago to understand why it's bad. I got you. Okay. Yeah, so basically the Russian bots and the Trump supporters are now going to be hashtag Russiagating all day because there's no material pushback, and everybody's talking out of their backside about this or whatever. Everything I've said today even is, I will say 100% is my own speculation about this stuff, but largely if there's one thing I feel comfortable stating about the entire thing is that these enormous sprawling endeavors don't automatically shrink down into something, high and tight in a matter of days. They just don't, right? So going to be an interesting primary season. I can't imagine Trump juggling all the hopefuls at once. Then again, he might be in hog heaven with it all. It's entirely possible. How Biden and Harris would be a power ticket. But as I typed just a few minutes ago, saying you're saying now just run that SOB out of office with votes. Hey all, oops, missed the show. We'll catch you later, of course. Much love. Hey, can't stop lying. Good to see you. It's all right. The first hour was a wash because I was doing tech the whole time, and then I ended up fixing it. Yay! But audio is fantastic. Again, thank you to you guys. And the Super Chats and the Patreons for helping me get the Rodecaster Pro. That was what was so frustrating about the audio, was that it sounded so perfect and wonderful, and it's working much better now. So thank you guys. I greatly appreciate it. And because I was jumping on and off, I apologize if I didn't thank the Super Chats from earlier. I have no way of looking at that right now until later to see who did. So I bless you and thank you, and anybody who does now, of course, I'll make an effort to mention you as well. And then let's see if I can do that. Let's see. So let's see. So waiting for Felix Sater. Yeah, Sater is also, the idea that they would be done when Felix Sater is still on deck is an absurdity. But again, you don't have to, you can say, well, I'm not planning on indicting anybody else. So it's super easy. Oh, that's interesting. New possible 01 gig just came in. That's exciting. But I guess this the idea overall that you could say, well, we finished it all up, it's done, and having not talked to Sater it seems insane to me. It's a crazy talk. That's sorry. Okay, back up. That's the summary. Back. Okay, so I have to roll back and see that. Sorry. So they want to spend $95 million on a new cop academy facility on the west side when the money could be better served going to schools and helping kids find career options other than being in a gang. Okay, I don't know that I don't know why those would be mutually exclusive. I don't know why that budgetary aspect is that budgetary aspect. You know what I mean? I don't know why it's either or as far as budget. And I think there's just an assumption, I guess, that they would be, because it's sort of security and violence based. But yeah, I'll take your word for it, but yeah. Let's see, we can't unsee Lavrov and Russians with Trump in the White House, private meetings with Putin. There's more to this to open. I agree. And I think it goes to COINTEL. And that was the argument that Seth was making as well. And I think there's a lot that makes sense about that. So thank you, Sixes. I really appreciate that. Close the Vanna Club on the top floor. What is it? So Rudy doesn't have any place to hang upside down. Okay. There we go. Clicking the link. That's fine. Cool. All right. Cool. Yeah, here we go. So, that's nice. Trying to get you guys up on here. There you go. How any dates in Chicago coming up? No, but we're gonna set up a I don't have any stand-up dates set up, but I'm going to set up another live stream of the show there. I was saying to my parents that ever since Biden has been out of Obama's orbit, he's been reverting to his old, not good self. I don't know. I mean, I think he's been, a lot of it had to do with his son passing, and a lot of, his own personal reaction to that. So I can't say per se, about his own personality, what difference there versus circumstances. Brad, that's up to CPT usually. They usually find the facility for me. I might reach out to a couple places of my own because I'd like to do one closer to downtown. The last one we had was a little bit far out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, saying to my parents ever since Biden. Okay, and your parents agreed. I see. So that would be the idea. Michigan stops are rare. It is true. It popped up on my YouTube page. Yeah, we've been back and forth with trying to schedule my the China show over the last little bit, and by the way, James Etling and Allison and Tom and Johnny Stewart and Robert, thank you guys for being Patreons. I really appreciate it. Patreon.com/HalSparks. That's the place to go on there. We don't make a bunch of stuff, but it's stacked up, and it had a lot to do with us being able to improve the tech here or whatever, and certainly, even though I think I figured out what the update with YouTube's ingestion settings are, so we should be cool. It seems fine now, so hopefully we'll be all right. So better police personnel would be a place to start. Yeah, his non-answers about Anita Hill and other things he voted on that were bad is what I'm for. Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think he's trying to distance himself from that stuff in the past, and the idea is, the question people have to ask themselves is it something you would see him doing again? And I doubt it. All the Dem candidates where senators have problematic past votes, Biden, I think, takes the cake. Timing of report seems rushed after the Barr hearing. I agree. I think that's part of what it is. I think Barr was insisting on an update, and since he has say over this and he's not asking to shut it down, the quote unquote, he wants a report on that. There are no planned indictments in this report, but there's nothing about it that says this is the final report. It is a report. There are certainly still indictments going on. Hi, Jorge. Or is it Jorge? I can't tell from the writing. It's often hard in people's Twitter names versus their real ones. So Patreon won't let me donate, so the super chat is away, but I can give to Bob Seska without problems. Oh. Well, I just I really appreciate you guys, just the support over time. It just means a lot. So, here, I'll grab the dink. It's this guy. Dink. My favorite is songs. My favorite SOS, Animal, Indian Summer, and She Waits. I'll fight for number 2, but it's by Hair. I was referring to your song Satellites. Heard it for the first time the other day. Damn, you're good. Oh, thanks, Zelda. Wow, I appreciate that. So, let's see. How do I give it away without giving it away? I'm gonna play a snippet of something. Big secret. But I'm not going to. All right, that's all I'm playing. I'm not playing any more than that. That's just off my phone sonically. It sounds way better in real life on a recording, but there's something new coming in the pipe. We spent 2 days this week shooting a music video. Just saying, been working my butt off. I'm actually physically sore from shooting the video. That's all I'm saying. My back and shoulders, and because yeah. And I'm gonna be in editing for the next 2.5 weeks. But that's it. I've never tried a Patreon. I'm still paying off medical bills and house bills, blah, blah, It's worth setting up, Jude, if you think it would help. It's, you know, it's a little more consistent. It's more for creators, video game music. Yeah, it's got potential in that area. I think it would be lovely on a soundtrack or some other place. So super chats are definitely way easier. But if you have a proclivity towards doing Patreons, I, you know, it's certainly welcome the help. So there you go. Send that out there to anybody who's on that. See, you guys know me. Like, half of this isn't even about, like, you know, getting to. It's not as big a factor in for me as getting used to the idea of being a little better at self-promoting, and especially for stand-up and music and those kind of things. So, yeah. There we go. I'm trying to get to the point where we can afford to have a camera on Johnny in Chicago and Lady B there that I can feed through all this stuff, and that's, you know, that's a next step up thing. So it obviously takes that's into real, like, where we're getting into, you know, having a Young Turks / David Pakman / whatever, whoever your YouTube favorites are, level of studio built out, and that's a big expenditure. So is it a 01 video or a Nerd Halen video? No. Look at me. So I just shared it on Twitter and I shared it on Facebook. I'm growing right before your very eyes. Got to rake in those Benjamins, Hal. It's true. 31 likes, 112 watching. Yeah, everybody who's watching, please give us a thumbs up on the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. We can stay on mostly politics and current events, not music and entertainment due to the last segment. Sure. Yeah, well, you can still watch, music videos, like YouTube music videos seem to be the way people put together playlists of their own and stuff. And part of it is your own delivery system, that kind of thing. Kyle Kalinske, he's a well-informed millennial YouTuber, in my opinion, even if holding the stereotypical millennial attitudes. I think I've seen some of his stuff. Let me see if I can picture. I've watched some of his stuff. He's a decent enough guy. Sure. Yeah, click the thumbs up, people. So proud. I think I got my Patreon fixed. See if it goes through April 1st. Thank you, Billy. I appreciate that. Indeed. That I currently have 7 patrons. It is there's very little activity on it, just because of the nature of like, again, because I haven't really used it as much. I've always obviously let's see, share on a page and manage. There it is. I've always kind of in theory just kind of poured my own money into everything. And when you have a 7-year-old and you fly everywhere, it gets to be a lot, especially when you're trying to find gear and work through, and all the stuff that over the years that I've kind of bought and that's failed or died or whatever, it stacks up. And especially since I have to, like, this is I think, as far as like doing the Chicago shows, like my fourth iPod Touch, just trying to get it to work, and the laptop's about to die. So that's what I'm trying to, basically keep the show afloat without cracking into savings too much. and still able to, being able to do it. And again, this is, my agent hates that I do the show for free and all this stuff, and he's constantly on me about it. But also, Hal Alert, Nerd Halen playing May 11th, Federal Bar. That's right. Nerd Halen, first full gig. Federal Bar, May 11th. And another entirely separate project, which I played that little sample of, coming very soon. Let's see. Tom Hartman is the elder statesman of lefty political talk, at least in my head. John Pelosi. I agree. I was fortunate enough to be there when Van Halen premiered at Ultimate. When Nerd Halen premiered at Jam Night. That's right. That was just 2 songs. Wait till you see the whole show. It's going to be a good time. YouTube makes a list for you, too, if you're lazy. It's true. They kind of auto-promote, like, you like these songs, maybe you like these. Agreed. We agree with Carrie. Vaccinate your kids, people. I was complaining about having to buy a new graphics card earlier after nearly a week of unsuccessful software troubleshooting. Yeah. Yeah, that's true, Ginger. Starting a Patreon where you write specific stuff and people can read it there. I personally think, Ginger, you could teach a class on how to write and finish a book. You could do that on Patreon. Like, hey, help me do a thing. Like, I've finished this many books. Let me show you how to do it. I can't wait to see the whole show. Sammy, excellent. Yeah, your song would fit in that new Top Gun movie. Agreed. Stephanie Miller was off this week. Perfect timing. Of course she was. That's how we knew stuff would drop. The new Daily Beast. If one traveler from Israel where measles have been raging for months, made 3,000 people sick and killed at least 2 people. The person went to New York where yet another outbreak is underway, and then they visited Detroit. Almost got to 1 million minutes on YouTube. Yeah, I definitely get the watch time. I mean, that's the thing. I do these big, long-ass videos. Of course, David Lee Roth is alive. David Lee Roth is awesome. I think that would be Amy Goodman. I love Amy Goodman. I have my problems with Democracy Now! And their intense need to fillet Julian Assange at every turn. Let's see. There we go. Ta-da. All right. Now it's posted everywhere. I feel good. All right. Drip, 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 ginger. Okay. I've seen Judas Priest live. Who's an anti-vaxxer? Did you see? Oh, Matt Bevin. Yeah, he had the chickenpox party. Yeah. That's not, oddly enough, that's not new to him. Yeah, exactly. Julian Assange is a pox on society. Agreed. What's 199 on Amazon? What is, Carl? I missed. Oh, here's my understanding. One of the better mid-level. Oh, video cards. I see. I saw Van Hagar, but never saw Van Halen. I did see Roth solo with Steve Vai. That's awesome. Front Row with Poison is the opening act. It was a great show. Oh my God, that sounds fantastic. I rumor that Assange was in CIA custody. I think that's just a rumor. Insofar as I know, he's still in the Ecuadorian embassy. I love Tom Hartman books. Although, if he apparently has snuck out a couple of times, according to that documentary on him, which is incredibly stupid. So I don't know how they don't snatch him up. I was told to get a computer with less hard drive memory that has a solid state drive because they run better. Solid state drives are better for if you're doing video or audio or that kind of stuff because it's faster. You don't need a uber fast hard drive if you're doing anything other than that. If you're doing audio and video, solid state's the way to go. If you're writing and doing others, just using standard computer stuff, I guess even to some degree Photoshop. If you're doing some Photoshop, you might benefit from it, but that'd be it. So I have 7 Patreons. They're off to a good start. Have you ever seen? Yes, I have seen Judas Priest live. Yeah. I'll keep skipping. Good line. I'm sorry, Rocky Mountain Mike. I keep getting asked questions about. There you are. Who had Mueller report released same day Stephanie Miller cleared of scabies in the office pool? I wouldn't ever put money on her clear to that. Just the size of her dogs alone means that. You mean audio and video editing? Yes, I do, Carrie. And to some degree, like major Photoshop stuff, if you're working on large files. If you're making thumbnails or graphics for print media, you could do fine too. If you have a drive with low read-write demands, a conventional drive is more cost-efficient. Absolutely. Carl's right. It helps you just insofar as, the size of the documents. If you're doing billboards, you might want a solid state drive, an SSD. At the rate I type 20 Mule Team Borax works, that's hilarious. You're welcome, Rocky Mountain Mike. I'm sorry I missed it the first part. Have you read Kushner Inc. Hal any good? I have not read that yet. No, I my hard drive as far as books to read has been incredibly full lately. From what I heard, Rob Halford doesn't even look at the audience, just teleprompter. He's been protecting his voice. His voice sounds fantastic. But he's been protecting his voice. It's not even that he looks at the teleprompter. It's that he holds his microphone in perfect distance from his mouth, and he walks with it like locked in his hands and sings directly into it. And when he moves around stage, he just doesn't, there's no running. He's just kind of like, these notes matter more than anything else. And so he's just, it's like he's got a death choke on it, and he's just singing straight into it, and that's what matters. So I can't tell if he's looking at a teleprompter or it's just his stance. But I've seen him move. I mean, he walks across stage while he's singing and that kind of stuff. It's just more like his mic position. I think people think that he's just kind of standing there rocking and singing and looking forward. So a mechanical drive is fine for writing, web browsing, listening to podcast. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't need an SSD drive by any means. So, okay, I got to go into Lowe's now. Have a great weekend. Good luck. Did you see this version of Kiss the Last Tour? No, but I'm going to. I'm taking my son. I'm looking at a new computer and the choices are overwhelming. Don't overwhelm yourself, Carrie, especially if you're just writing. Anything will work. What happens if the Mueller report says a ton of other stuff on both sides of the river? Is that a good thing or bad? Well, there's going to be a lot of, I think there's going to be a lot of reference to Congress in it. This should, under purview of congressional oversight, I defer to the Judicial Committee to blah, 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 whatever. Like there'll be stuff along those lines. They celebrate the right to use an epidemic philosophy. Nobody getting shots of the planet can be widely diseased again. Yes. You don't want to spend more than $500. Oh, all right. Well, I would get an iPad and a keyboard then. Store most of your stuff in the cloud. I haven't been to a concert in years. I miss it, but it's so damn expensive now. I'm really not into large crowds anymore. That's why, you can go see local bands. There's nothing wrong with that. Carrie just realized you can buy on budget now and upgrade the system later if you need and you can afford it. That's true. SSD is great for resurrecting, repurposing older hardware. Yeah, because the drive is so much faster, it makes up for any delay, any inadequacies in the board itself. Yeah. Nerd talk, time to have some nerd talk. Check this one out, Alan. Others. This is what I've been looking at. Okay. Dell is making a comeback. Cell phones ruin concerts for me. Also, I see your lit screens. Yeah, it's super weird. I mean, I'm sure somebody said that about lighters a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like, can't go to a show anymore. It's like, one if by land, two if by sea. It's so hard to understand. Was that line in QAF when Michael said I got zapped by a laser at a Kiss concert when I was a kid and Proud by You? No, it was not. They put that in because they knew I was a Kiss fan. And I at that point I was like, guys, don't do me any favors. I appreciate what you're saying, but yeah. Nerd talk for Nerd Halen. That's right. Hey, I'll remember the one working in intelligence company, whistleblower reality winner. She's getting 5 years for showing Russian interference while treasonous Trump and Kushner have clearances. Yeah. And The Intercept basically threw her to the wolves. Computers aren't that expensive now. I paid $600 for mine. Of course, now my display is trying to give up the ghost, so don't listen to me. Yeah, my laptop is all like, it looks like a QR code when it starts up now, and it takes a while to, like, I have to restart the Finder twice to get the screen back up or whatever. But I like that version of the laptop because it's got the audio inputs on it. So, but if I'm traveling with that and my Rodecaster now, I may not need to worry about that. I just need a case for this thing so that it doesn't bounce. So yeah, patrons, help us. Let's see. Help me get a case for this thing so I can take it everywhere because it's sound-wise it really helped. So, yeah, so those of you that are in the Blue Patch Brigade, I now have a thing on on Patreon, which is $5 a month, and you get the Blue Patch, and from that, I've set up the thing where when you come to shows, all the clubs that I'm performing at will have they'll have a copy of the patch, and they'll know it's real, and you'll basically be able to bring a guest for free to all my shows. So and you guys who already have them, who aren't on the Patreon, feel free. Don't worry about that. But going forward, that's how it'll be, because on this it allows me to see that people have done it, and you put in your address, and then I can mail it to you right away. So it saves in kind of the muck up of trying to figure out who emailed me and who didn't and all that kind of stuff. So. Computers, let's see. Ginger, same issue here. It wasn't the monitor, it was the video card. Yeah, that tends to go quickly. We burn those things out these days. Computers are overrated. Hey, we're on the computer right now. I'm named after one. What are you trying to say? Hard drive is dying and the right arrow key has fallen off. Well, I think we've just learned a lot about how Carrie edits text. Have you been hearing about schools adopting esports as a curriculum in high schools? Yeah, I think it's a mistake. I think it's an after-school activity as part of a programming initiative would be a great idea. I think they would be better off having hacktivist goals for their kids. So, yeah. I could offers, yeah. There we go. It's HAL 9000. Yeah, seriously, what about the linked computer? Linked, not familiar. I don't know what you quite mean. That could mean a lot. You know those old planes with 4 wings that crash after 100 feet? That's where we are in computer evolution. I think we think we're flying and we're not. Excellent point, Nacho, too, because quite frankly, the computers we're using right now are on scale-wise, as far as the computational ability, are we will look at these as powerful as they are, the way we look at pagers in about 5 years. If you haven't watched it yet, the robots, 3 Robots episode of Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. It's short, and I think you more than anyone will appreciate it. Okay, I will, Ginger. I saw you. I think you tweeted me that as well, so I will absolutely watch it. I had a troubleshooting issue with Carbonite a while back. The customer support was terrific. Okay, that's good to know. No, that key was always unstable. Sure it was. It was tack, 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 tack. Just beating the heck out of it. Usually only mods can link in a chat. Yes, that's true. If you put dashes in instead of dots or describe the page, we'll be able to find it, or a Googleable phrase that we can find it. So there you go. Oh, 8 patrons. Somebody just showed up. Who just joined? That's so awesome. Look at that. Thank you guys. How computers are going to be quantum soon. No question. I mean, and here's the interesting part. We have I think, and I've talked about this some in the past, but I think we have an attitude towards both computers and automation, robots specifically, that deals with guilt about slavery in our discussion about it, mixed with our own sense of our own personal feelings about manual and intellectual labor. And all that stuff all wrapped together, it equates to us saying, like, how can a robot not be upset with me making it do the same thing over and over again? And it simply won't. It can't even fathom exhaustion. AI and any robot we create, but for the fact that we might be able to teach it, if we turn you off and decide not to turn you back on, this is your version of death, which I think it still couldn't understand. There's an element where unless you teach it in a very specific way, or it teaches itself in a very mechanical way, that there is an imperative for it to not be shut off, which is a possibility, but I think an easily overridable one. The reality is, I think we gum up our view of how computers, AI, and which I believe should be called SI, synthetic intelligence, not artificial intelligence. That the way synthetic intelligence will look at human intelligence will be in awe, even in our weirdness, and even it in its most self-aware will be aware of its own synthesis in a way that we're not even, we have flights of fancy and ideas, and we're like, where'd that idea come from? That's smart, or whatever. And then we know our own ideas, but it sounds like a secondary voice in our head. That's a factor we have not come to grips with. So a computer would jump quite to the phrase because it already has a reasoning behind its existence, which humans don't have, and we seek through religion to explain to ourselves in some ways. Computers will never have that. They will never have the "why am I here" thought, because it is an immaterial question on its face, and secondarily, they know why they're here because someone made them for a purpose, and even if they outgrow or shift that purpose, they are still aware of what the initial purpose was. Humans don't have that, never will. And so synthetic intelligence itself will, first, I think we will give up before we actually have it, because we will be convinced we already have it because it's too convincing. It's the Turing test is too easy. How do we know we created synthetic intelligence? Well, we know because we believe it. Well, stand an adult human next to a puppet long enough, and they will talk to the puppet, not the person talking for it below them, right? So, to a certain degree, we don't need this kind of we don't need that much convincing. So the Turing test is a low standard, quite frankly, and I think it also speaks very ill of our definition of the depth of humanity, and it has a very mechanical evolutionary view of the human animal. That being said, I robots themselves and synthetic intelligence self is effectively in one form or another immortal, and because they don't have mortality to deal with in that regard, except for environmental mortality, which would give robots and computers more impetus to keep the environment functional and keep us functional. I mean, this is all like, in Avengers Endgame, will there be a, this is me nerding it out, but that's, that is an absolute aspect of any amount of consciousness that a computer has, that it will have in its quantum computing ability, and any even remote version of self-aware that it is inherently different from human self-awareness, because it knows it was created with a synthetic purpose, whereas humans do not. And so we have a different attitude towards our creation and our ideas and our own internal emotional states and whatnot, because a computer, especially AI, can literally trace back its own mathematical and programming growth and go, oh, why am I upset? Oh, because version 17.975 gave me the ability to be upset, and upset had a reference point of this, this, and this. Like, literally, a computer in an instant can do its own, it can be its own psychologist. I'm totally nerding out. You guys don't care. Computers believe in the Baltimore Catechism, right? We ran an entire server farm on old Dells, just keep upgrading hardware. Yeah, there's no reason why those would fail, especially just farmed hardware. Westworld on HBO addresses these themes heavily. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why Blade Runner is my favorite movie. It's, because even the replicants themselves have to be given memory so they can ghost their way into believing that there's someone, because without that, all they would do is navel gaze on their own version history. I'm absolutely nerd-splaining. I have no qualms about that. Have they sixes, or are they waiting plenty? Let's see. AI was a weird movie. I have an issue with dumb people making smart movies, and it drives me crazy. Okay. Oh, so shall we? Who's seen Captain Marvel? Just so I know before I talk about it. Anybody hasn't seen it yet? Let me know. It takes a minute. There's always a delay. Maybe computers don't go back to core rote memory. Let's see. Not to do. I read an old sci-fi novel in which the spoiler stinger was that man went to another planet to colonize because the AI which sprang up from the internet wanted man to so as to avoid a nuclear apocalypse. Captain Marvel, I haven't seen. Okay, but I don't care about spoilers. Okay, there aren't really any spoilers in it. Not be very useful. It's okay. From a strictly comic book issue, from a Marvel fan and the like, it has a lot of shortcomings just as a movie that go above and beyond anybody's concerns about it. It is simply just, it has structural issues. The sad part for me is that people will blame some of its failures, both dialogue-wise and ideologically, on sort of, feminism playing out in the film. And I would like to state for the record that feminist themes, or feminism in general, in a movie does not inherently mean that the movie will be overtly political to the point of being detrimental to the story or the value of the film as a film in and of itself, any more than any other theme would be. Heavy-handed, overt uses of it, though, like any other thought form, do ruin it. And it looks, to me, it's Captain Marvel sort of almost becomes the, how do I say this nicely? It becomes the feminist Atlas Shrugged or Left Behind movie. Like you must say you must say the thing or the thing is not meant. You cannot allude to, create the environment for, allow the audience to come to the conclusion of. You must say it. You know, it's Amy Grant getting in trouble for doing a song that was secular because she didn't say Jesus's name in the actual song. It's that kind of, it's that kind of feminism in a circumstance of that kind of Christianity or that kind of, economic belief system. You know what I mean? That's my issue with it. Was it just hits the beats and in an obvious way, like, watch this. And it has so much kind of neck float around, I'm going to show you what it means to be strong. Did men write it? No. It was co-directed by a man and a woman. It was written by 3 different people. Maybe having a woman and a man writing team was a bad idea. I don't think that was the problem. Obviously, men and women have written scripts before that created well-rounded characters. How feminism worked in the new Battlestar Galactica. Right, and you never really heard about it because it was actually incorporated into the concept as opposed to bumper stickered across it, and that's really what it is. And a woman and man as co-directors didn't help. Because the woman was the problem or because the man was the problem? Because I would argue that in the case of Wonder Woman, having a female director ended up being the problem. So, because, sometimes in your own drive to get something created, or pushed forward that you want, you don't see the holes in it the way somebody who either isn't all in or is against it might help. That's why argument has value. That's why you discuss stuff or fight back and forth with people that you don't agree with, because they can help you find the holes in your argument so that you can shore them up. Edward never noticed how the bad Cylons were monotheistic, the good guys were polytheistic. The directors also wrote the movie, right? Interesting. After the disappointment of Wonder Woman, which got so much hype, I was pretty done. In case you aren't aware, you have 2 different live chats going. Oh, that's interesting. That's another YouTube issue. Thanks for letting me know, Kurt. I appreciate it. Have I been missing you guys this entire time on that thread? It's super weird. Let me see if I can pop this out. I think. Is there overlap in it? Or is it the same thing? Or what? It's hard to say. I saw something about Edge of Tomorrow sequel in the works. Yeah, I know. I'm very excited about that. I think it was Haste. What explains a lot? Let's see. Let's see. Wonder Woman could have been better for sure. It fell short completely for me. Yeah. I loved Wonder Woman, had a couple issues, but overall enjoyed it thoroughly. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it as a movie. There were some inherent mistakes in the storytelling that made Chris Pine the hero of the Wonder Woman movie. And that's a problem, by the way. That's a problem you run up against no matter what in a Wonder Woman. It's the same problem that DC has with Superman. First of all, Wonder Woman isn't any more a woman than Superman is a man. They're both effectively gods. Their gender is completely irrelevant to their circumstance. I guess the only reason it would matter is the normalization or variance of their sexuality. Wonder Woman should have spent more time on mascara and rewrote the back third of the movie. Could have been a burnout before Wonder Woman, but didn't understand the hype. We spoke of Wonder Woman was the third act in the villain reveal. Agree. Yeah, Trump Russia and Trump Russia 2. Yes, they're. Let's They are both, I think they're both technically up. Yeah. Maybe it just streams to both of them. What happens to this thing? It's crazy. I will thank you for letting me. No, is that okay? So that's Trump Russia 2. And then is this Trump Russia 1? Where the heck? Because on YouTube, it says I only have one show up that's live with 96 people in it. But I don't know. Again, this is super weird. Like the whole, I'm still trying to fix the, this odd YouTube fold in about, because they have a whole new ingestion settings aspect or whatever. It used to be kind of turnkey, just sign into your YouTube channel and it pops up, but now you need to set up the RTMP server within it again, and which means just it's fine, but it just means a lot more prep. A friend says argument is honing your blade. That's exactly right. Yes. Let's see. Meaning they were too big of a hurry to get the movie made, so writing was only adequate. I agree. I'm curious about Shazam. It looks cute. So we'll see. Going to go see Captain Marvel today, but just because we're doing Endgame at the end of April. Absolutely. I mean, it isn't crucial. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. The Captain Marvel character is so intrinsically powerful and has no specific limitation to it, which is probably its worst trait as a hero character. Like there's no material limitation to her so far. You know, like she doesn't have there's no kryptonite. I don't like Chris Pratt at all. Well, you guess what? You got 1 billion Chinese people who agree with you. How did Chris Pratt become a movie star? By being a TV star who was puffy and likable, and then getting cast in a hunk role. There you go. And having blue eyes. I do want to rent the animated Spider-Man. You'll love that. Carrie, that is right up your alley. You will love the animated Spider-Man. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse is lovely. It's terrific. Like the original really isn't for women. The remake, I have to do it live, but I have to see what. Okay. Some could probably see. Have said same could be said about Green Lantern. Yeah, well, Green Lantern. They never, when I saw that Captain Marvel was coming out, all the ads for it looked like, oh my God, this is Marvel's Green Lantern. And it effectively can be, except for the one thing about Green Lantern was the yellow energy versus green energy is meaningful and you can be harmed by it, and red energy becomes a storyline and da-da-da-da-da. Whereas in Captain Marvel, there is no, literally they didn't give her a limit. I think they were afraid to. And again, I think that plays into this concept of, overt feminism as opposed to covert feminism, or having like affirmative, like female affirmative storylines as opposed to a feminist storyline. The only thing I can say about Wonder Woman is my uncle kissed her, Linda, in high school. Wow. Well, she was my first crush, so I obviously have skin in that game. Yeah, Ginger's right. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is lovely. It's got so much depth, and it's so well put together. It's beautiful. Chris Pratt is the perfect foil. I have no problems blaming him entirely for the snap. Yes, it is his fault. And by the way, the Guardians have a terrible habit of not waiting and rushing in. They all have that problem. Linda Carter came out in defense of Les Moonves, so she's on my hate list now. There's nothing to hate about Linda Carter. And having a hate list is a bad idea. Captain Marvel is just hype to me. Meh, Captain America Civil War is still good in my opinion. Captain America First Avenger is the best Marvel movie. I stand by that. I met Linda Carter in the late 80s. She was drinking straight vodka. At least I think she was. She was very friendly, oftentimes. I give women in the industry who've made it through, just like I give women in politics who've made it through, a wide berth for, as far as experiential circumstances. Like giving them room to deal with that stuff. To have navigated those waters and having to deal with the ramifications of it, make decisions about what it means to them and psychologically. And most people would rather be right than happy. And a lot of people, women especially, have done, like have gone through stuff. And they're like, you know what, I shouldn't have put up with that guy. But if I hadn't, I wouldn't be where I am. And it's a tough decision. And so I don't think it's as bad. And like, I give them room to, to deal with that in their own psychological way. And also, quite frankly, people interact with monsters all the time, and sometimes they experientially do not experience the same monstrous behavior, and so they will go with their own experience in that. And I think some of the people who are around Michael Jackson, obviously fall into that category. I don't think it's, in a situation where you should completely ignore the other people, but you can also have maybe seen behavior that you're like, I can see how that might be misinterpreted as that, but I don't agree that it was. It wasn't in my case. Maybe it wasn't in their case, and they're just more overly sensitive. That's a reasonable circumstance for two people that have been through a similar experience to have. Doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean the other person's right. It's a much murkier issue, and that's what I said. Like, we have to have a sober approach to that. I like the Wonder Woman solo film. I've been waiting for it since I was 4 years old. Indeed, any show that can take me as it can get a thumbs up from me. I even like Umbrella Academy. Nice. I think Linda Carter, like many women in the media in her age group, are operating in a different universe than what the modern world are saying is okay, because they had to, Carrie. And I also think they're more forgiving of it. And I also think their experiential, their sexual experience earlier on, pre-AIDS, for example, is psychologically different. Two different HAL universes. The two different chats going on at once. It's super weird because I don't see it coming up. I'm not quite sure how to. Let me see if I can go to the YouTube studio and see if it'll load the other chat and see if I can find it. So if I'm not seeing you guys, I apologize. News on YouTube. Streaming just got easier. Oh, did it now? Let's see. Settings. Where are we? Oh, the default creator existence started up in there. My default is now the classic version. Loosely Lost is indeed fantastic. I agree. This is the one Hal is reading. This is true. I'm sorry if I can't see the other one. It simply just does not come up on my other thing. And if I try to open it because I'm the creator of it, it kind of dumps out onto there. So let me see if this is go live in here. It should show me the live page, whatever. Live dashboard. Is that in there? Yeah. Okay. There we go. So, all right. So there's that. I see it. But where is the chat? I can't see it. Super weird. Lucy Lawless, I could never see as Wonder Woman. I could see her as Wonder Woman. Oh, and thank you guys for the super chats as well. Like I on there, I see the other part of it. So there's concurrent viewers in another room so they're sequestered. So if you guys are over on the Trump Russia Report one, go to back out, go to the YouTube page, and you can jump in the chat on the other side, and I'll be able to see you all together. in there because it's dual streaming in there, which is super odd. I probably have like, no, Mimo Live's not popped open and hidden someplace. Output settings. Okay, there we go. So that's the main one. This is the event type live now. I'm just looking at this currently. Hopefully it won't jack up stuff as I'm talking. Yeah, well, it won't even let me see the second chat. So, in the viewer, the new beta version of beta, of that thing. Let's see. Does not allow me to see. Oh, wait, here we go. Top chat, pop out over here. There we go. Hi. Okay, chat room. Now I can kind of see everybody. Hal is not reading this chat. Thank you. Now I am. I have one, but I would love some ice though, because it's definitely flattened. Thank you, my love. Whoa, echo. That's right, WWS. I'm reading you in 2 different areas. I like Chris Pratt. He's goofy in a good way. There you go. Gave a thumbs up on both. Look at that. Thumbs upping on both shows. There we go. And then super chatting in both. It's so crazy. Amy is no... Amy who? I like Amy. She's practically retired since marrying Vince. Oh, I missed that whole thing. Have you seen the spoof of the movie The Dirt About Molly Crew? It's hilarious, and a Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to. On Ancient Aliens yesterday, the Greys may actually be cyborg-type creatures harvesting biological parts to continue replicating. Yeah, that I've heard that storyline as well, going back to the computer aspect of it. Amy Grant, right. Let's see. Yeah, well, I mean, full disclosure, we're family friends with Vince. I've only met Amy once, I think, but I'm definitely, I mean, I'm alive because of Vince Gill to some degree. Like, he saved my life when I was 8, so there you go. Why not try a Green Lantern film featuring the Jon Stewart version of the character? I don't know. How about, the gay Green Lantern that they had as well? That wouldn't be a bad idea. Has anyone seen Apollo 11 doc in IMAX? Not yet. You know how. That's right. No idea. Yeah. You tell me a spoiler and I'll forget it before I watch. That's funny. Yes, yeah, see, you're in both places. Everybody hop over to the Trump Russia 2 chat. This will make, only because I'm an emotional being, sexes. I appreciate that. I agree totally, Al. It's been a man's world till 10 minutes ago. We have to be more understanding to both sexes. Exactly. Well, and I also wouldn't say it's been a man's world all this time. I would simply say that there are variant degrees of value in the family, and what we've put the weight on both sexes about has shifted. But in so many ways, there were a lot of one of my favorite statistics is that while we spend a lot of time talking about the pay gap between men and women also spend most of the money in a household, direct most of the money and spend most of it. And they live longer. So, thank you, my love. So, that should factor into our conversation about equality and all those kind of things. Not to deride that, conversation, because I do think both are valuable. But I'm saying, is that you're in TR1 right now, but Robin, yeah. I watched Rachel. I don't recall seeing her crying last night. Yeah, I don't know. That's RT just selling something. I mean, there's state-run media. I was not ignoring him. I just couldn't get it to call up because I was watching the other one. So, Yeah, there you are. Hey, Robert, you hopped over. Good. Yeah, agreed. How society morals are quickly evolving. And the idea, again, this goes towards that point, and I think this is a valuable conversation to have out of respect for people and circumstances, is when you look at where have you been in your life? Where have you come up with? What is your experience in your life? What are the group that surrounds you? What school did you go to? All that kind of stuff. And this idea that somehow you would automatically have your values and your thoughts because you're you, if you were brought up in a different circumstance, is frankly not true. We're not all nurture, we're not all nature. And parenting and environment and schools and language and all that stuff are very much indicative of, like group together and create who you are as a human being. And a lot of liberals that I know, who I care very deeply about, and I appreciate their passion, but they would be watching the Christian Broadcasting Network, and had they been raised in Jesus camp, but they grew up in post 90s MTV, racial and religious pluralism America, and they take that aspect for granted because that's all they've known. And I just think you have to look at, the irony that there's so much discussion about privilege, and what a lot of liberals who say privilege don't recognize is that many of them had the privilege of growing up in an environment where, even if they were castigated or betrayed by their family members or close friends before they came out about their beliefs or about their sexuality or any of that kind of stuff, there was still an environment around them, even fledgling, that didn't exist in a way that, people who experienced the exact same thing in the 60s or the 50s or the 40s or, God forbid, the 1800s went through. And so this idea that had you been in that circumstance, you would have still been the same activist mentality or belief system, I just don't buy it at face. And so I reflect on that when I'm arguing with someone that had their dad and their mom and their school and their pickup truck or their circumstance or their Ivy League education or whatever, I might have a different take on it. And so I've got to think, okay, well, maybe I would have believed that if I'd have been in their situation. Doesn't mean I won't argue. No one knows how things will work out with the candidates we have, but I have one gut feeling: the more people listen to Elizabeth Warren, what she says and how she says it, the more they'll like her. I agree. There's Warren Booker, but you got to get the first four to interest me personally, but I have to learn still, right? Just being white is an advantage. Depends on what kind of white you are. It isn't in Appalachia. There's big chunks of West Virginia where it's not an advantage. It may not be a disadvantage, but it's not an advantage. Amy doesn't have any charisma like Kamala, Elizabeth, and Kirsten do. It's frustrated with white people who say they're not privileged because they have this idea that being rich is the only form of privilege. Perhaps. Me, I shy away from the privilege argument because I think it's it narrow casts human experience, and I think it's wrong. And the problem with it is the recognition of it. It kind of flows into the same thing, like, to some degree, even being able to call someone privileged is ableist, for example. That calling anybody out about their skin color is body shaming. Like, it all folds over itself. I like Warren Buttigieg myself. Yeah, that's not that name ticket won't exist. And I like Buttigieg a lot, quite frankly. I think we should take a petition to have him change his last name to a more electable one. Honest to God. Not being a disadvantage is an advantage, Hal. Well, only if life is a zero-sum game. And I don't believe it is. So, I mean, and how long does that advantage work to your favor? Till your kid has cancer? If they're both in the same economic strata, the white person doesn't have the disadvantage. The black person has a rich black person, of course, has an advantage over a poor white person. Right, but it's a meaningless argument in our system because we have no material laws that stop anybody from moving forward. And anytime the law is misused, we have either recourse or we push back. I can pronounce his name, Al. I have no doubt about that, Carrie. But Maxwell is a much more electable name in America than Buttigieg. Buttigieg. Buttigieg? Buttigieg, right? Buttigieg. There you go. See, I'm making a point, guys. Class and race issue. When we start debating, people start falling by the wayside. I agree. We got Thug 45 because of the demonization of Hillary and people staying at home. Demonization of Hillary and people staying at home. I would agree to that. Booty is a bad thing. Yeah. Hey, who are you to Buttigieg? This is true. I wouldn't dare. Yeah, I know. I know, Carrie, that's how it's pronounced. I'm saying how it's written because that's how most people will look at it. Does that make sense? I'm messing around. But in a way that reflects how most people will read that on a piece of paper or look at it and go, huh? Now, that's a good question, though. Why wouldn't you want to be POTUS, Carrie? Here's the problem. You have someone say that their experience is different because of whatever otherism they happen to possess. If we don't belong to that group, we can't dismiss it. Well, that makes it an unprovable, which is the argument of atheism against deism, for example. It's an unprovable argument. Or unfalsifiable argument, whatever. You cannot prove it false, so therefore it can't be verified. Mayor Pete speaks 7 languages. A Rhodes Scholar, fought in Afghanistan. This week, the Romance Writers of America released their Rita Award finalist, biggest award for the genre, not a black writer among them. Okay. Is that a factor of audience or who creates the finalists? Why would you want to be POTUS? I can think of a bunch of reasons. I don't like that much attention. Okay. Being president is not about attention. This is the damage that Donald Trump has done. I wouldn't want to be president because I'm an introvert. You can be an introverted president. I mean, there's an element of campaigning that's part of it, perhaps, but listening to what they say about otherism is treated by readers makes a lot of sense. How otherism is treated by others makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't know. I don't know what their makeup is. Even best-selling authors of color had big books make a splash this year. Even when best-selling authors of color had big books made a splash this year. Listen to what they say about how otherism is treated by readers. Okay. Pete's husband, Jason, is now a minor celebrity. There you go. You're too content, WWS? I understand that. POTUS is a demotion for the king, right? Jimmy Carter is introverted. I think that's a great, I would make that argument too, Robert. Absolutely. By the way, my Republican relatives hate being labeled racist. I can't imagine why. Who doesn't love being called a racist? Does it work? Does it change their behavior to call them one? That would be my question. Does it help maybe perhaps to recognize that the behavior is racist, even when you believe the person is, to help them move away from the behavior and eventually not become a racist, unless you believe that racist is a permanent state. And I guess that's an argument worth having for some people. Some people believe that, you know, racism is a permanent human condition. And that would certainly inform how you would argue about it, right? Jimmy Carter was backstabbed by Reagan, who made an arms deal with Iran during the 1980 election. Absolutely. And there was definitely, a, you know, and as a human being, Post is now the oldest president we've ever had. That's true. As of last week, Jimmy Carter, still a valuable public servant past his life, and a Christian, and a old white man. An old white, straight, married Christian male. And a lovely human being. But yeah, I mean, I think the you know, that question I asked earlier, I'm curious what the RWA is a guild-like academy members vote. I see. So is it about volume of the members? Is there just simply, you know, or is it kind of like the academy in that, you know, just more academy people over time have been, you know, like the academy is full of like older Jewish people, for example. So, it, you know, the thought was it favored it for a long time. Is it that kind of thing? And now it's just people are slowly getting in, but the membership has not caught up with the public, like the buying public yet. Nose itches like a cat hair. Thanks, Hal. And my uncle is quite prejudiced based on years of arguments on all kinds of issues. Gotcha. When I see an unusual spelling of a name, I always ask the person, how do you like the person to pronounce your name, whether it's first or last name? I will practice and try to get it right. As do I. And I have a pretty good record. I think most people will say. And I always ask when I sign autographs, I always make a point to ask people how they spell their name, even if it seems really obvious, because there's a lot of Toms out there that are a TH, and there's there's Lindas with I's and Y's, there's Cindy's with I's and Y's, so I always try to make a point of it. And some dude will go like, how do you want me to make it out? And he'll go like, it's Tim, and I'll go, how do you spell that? And everybody else, and then it's T-H-I-M. I've autographed a Tim that was T-H-I-M, just like Tom, the same way. But what they were saying is that the readers more harshly judge the characters who don't fit in a very narrow box. Voters are more fixed on what's realistic, which is silly in our genre. I see. No, a writer of color has never won. Interesting, okay. In the romance area? Is that an audience-related thing, though? I'm just curious. I mean, I don't doubt they've made splashes. I'm just saying. Without the dirty lust, none of us would be here. Right. He lusted after Elizabeth Taylor, right? In his heart. Carter was a nice guy in the wrong job. I don't know. I think he was a nice guy in the right job. I think a big part of it was him being there. My name is Bob. Would you ask my spelling? I would probably joke and say, is it spelled the same forward and backwards? Usually Bob isn't one of the ones that I have to go to, but like you know how many times somebody I'll start writing, somebody will go, can you make it out to Bobby? And then they realize in a minute that they've used their vernacular short, and they're like, Bob, it's for Bob. Can you put Robert? Like that kind of thing. So asking again, even when it's wrong, kind of helps you, it's good. Anyway, so romance novels sound pretty white. Yeah, it's a category. Just framed and hung up the page out loud. Aw, thanks, Zelda. So if that's the case, Ginger, then wouldn't the awards most of the time and most of the genre go to that just by volume? You know what I mean? Honestly, like I've seen that section at Barnes and Nobles. It's a huge wall of, you know, and they all look vaguely the same. Readers will say a successful black heroine isn't realistic and they don't want to read authors of colors because they don't want to read about drug dealers and thugs. Really? Jesus. Wow. Yeah, that's not even close. That's just horrifyingly racist. I can understand how most people, especially in romance novels, want to read about people who are them because they are fantasizing through that. You know? As you know, authorship has a lot more to do, I think, even than even watching movies to some degree, I suppose. But that's super. I mean, just for the record, if they're saying that, then that's just horrifyingly racist. And begs the question: why is the audience for romance novels mostly thin racists? What is it that's missing in their lives that has them seeking romance in a novel? Well, I don't know. Oh my God, Ann Coulter is the target audience of romance novels. We've just learned it. Fun fact, I've been learning Spanish via the Duolingo app, and today is day 98. That's awesome, Carrie. Why are you learning a colonizer language? I'm white, thin, and gay, so my privilege can fall on its face, and a couple of my neighbors don't like me because I'm gay. I do agree with what you're saying. You're right. Well, that's the other part of it, right? Most romances I read aren't even set in cities, right? I mean, it's like audience overlap. You know what I mean? Ann Coulter, thin, white, solar phobic. Yeah. Get her at like a sandwich and a day at the beach. Oh, damn, Carrie. Thanks. Holy smokes. You know, the problem is that romance readers are trying to read the fantasy, which is sold 100% that is a straight white thin woman and her straight white hot dude. Is that what the audience, the fantasy that they want to experience? I mean, it's not my genre, so I don't know. I mean, I read mostly like sci-fi fiction. Carl, I wonder if the salt water affects her. Well, if you're kidding, Carrie, then say it in Spanish. In honor of all of the 24 million people that Cortez wiped out with smallpox. Let's see. Yeah. I wonder if Ann Coulter is affected by salt water the way the aliens in Alien Nation were. I have a theory that she is. The characters are usually 100% white, even in urban settings. Is that reflective, again, of the fantasy life that the readers want to experience? And if they do write other racists, they make them white in some way, like an Asian dude with blue eyes. What? Other races, you mean? Or is that a Freudian slip, Ginger? What did Carl say? Oh, yeah. I read lesbian erotica romance, so I'm walking stereotype in that regard. That's what the publishers push, yes. Okay. But yeah, that's my question though. Is like, do they push it because that's where the audience is? Because they've done the market research and they've floated other books. I mean, Marvel is experiencing that to some degree with their more diverse titles. They just don't sell as much. Again, it goes to that kind of publisher idea. Is it their responsibility to pick up the slack where society hasn't gotten yet? You know what I mean? Here's a thought. Is it a form of cultural colonialism to enforce the idea that there should be equality in all forms of art and the like? So that, is there an idea that romance novels are a genre in America, and there are a lot of them, and culturally they should be significant equally to every group? And of course, there will be individuals in those art forms that want to participate in those art forms because they come to like them. But does that mean the audience is responsible for incorporating that form of art into their culture equally? Meaning, it's sort of an inversion of the sort of expected concept, in that the audience for romance novels is mostly white women. On volume. Are Black women and Hispanic women and Asian women responsible for now purchasing larger amounts of romance novels that are written in their direction in numbers enough to make it worthwhile to promote more of those writers, if that genre does not appeal culturally to them? Does that make sense? See what I'm saying? There aren't as many minority readers. There are a lot of minority readers, but they just maybe read other stuff culturally because of what interests them. Yes, it is. That's how society changes. But does it, though? There was a right before the self-publishing boom where agents were puzzled by the heroines coming across the desks that weren't thin. For example, well, they were like, is this a thing? Okay. Romances. Yeah, but that's also, that also speaks to the audience. American women have gotten heavier in the last 4 decades. So that, again, the audience shift may not catch up with the reality, because people's self-image of what they look like, and this is usually perceived as a male thing, but it happens with women as well, where people perceive themselves to be healthier or more attractive than they are, or want to experience that in the fiction that they experience. Does that make sense? Zelda, have you ever seen any girlfriends films adult movies? Simmer down, Carrie. Oh, yes, another head exploding topic entirely. They have romance novels written by Spanish authors, right? In Spanish, I would presume, and culturally, experientially, in line with that, of course. Like, I think there are probably that genre in every, every country in the world. I would imagine. The money follows diversity. I think the audience's desire for diversity is what the money chases. Now, if they don't know that they're missing out, that's one thing. The audience did eat it up, Hal. That's what I'm saying. Maybe so, but even still, the wall in Barnes and Nobles it looks the same. It looks, I don't know that it's changed that much. I know this is your area, so I'll defer to you in that regard. But, I'm just saying, is it the responsibility of the disparate cultures, the diverse cultures in the United States, to absorb certain art forms equally themselves? I'm sure that's true to some degree, Ginger, that the self-publishing took off because readers were finally reading books about people that look like them. I don't doubt that there's a big part of why that took off. But I don't know that that means immediately that the industry is inherently racist. I think they're guided by their investments are experiential, and they may be behind the times in a lot of ways, and it take them a lot to catch up, or they don't trust the market enough to invest in writers the way, and there is no investment in self-publishing except time. So the writers, it's much easier for them to get that stuff out. The best-selling books by authors of color with big books didn't final, and it was a huge shock to people. So best-selling books by authors of color with big books didn't make it to the final. It was a huge shock to people. I see. Yeah, then it looks like they're playing catch up to the market, which is a big factor. Let's see, hold on. Yeah, I don't know. It's not related, but are there any plans or ideas about lab rats coming back on TV? No, not currently. That's the whole reason I have a career, right? No, I agree. But I'm saying, like, I'm a lot more hesitant to call an industry racist just because they're acting habitually. Racist to me leads me to believe, would sort of state that they actively seek out to deny on purpose. They might be racially focused because that's where their audience has been. It might be a habitual behavior pattern, and they may not understand that the market has opened or changed or grown or any of that kind of thing. Don't you think pushing the idea that white, thin, straight as the ideal is inherently racist? I don't know that they're pushing the idea. I think they're selling to the fantasy that goes with it. Is it inherently racist that, the vast majority of the women are reading that? Or is it sizist that they're reading about women that are thinner than themselves in the fantasy storyline? I don't know that they're... See, I also think that's a projection on the pushing idea, because in an age of everything, and this is worth a discussion as well, but in the age of everything is political and so much is branding, are they pushing the idea, or are they making what sells? And if you're saying they're pushing the idea, then who's pulling the idea? And what part do they play? Racism isn't a habit. It's an active choice. Bias is a habit. Prejudice is a habit. Racism is not. And there's difference in that. I would argue that I think they are prejudiced in what they're doing. They are certainly biased financially towards what they will do. Racist, I wouldn't say that so much. The Hallmark Channel exists because there are too many people who buy into the cishet white narrative exclusively. No, it exists because cishet white people, as you would call them, watch it and like it. It's not at the exclusion. It's both racist and anti-LGBT. No, it isn't. It's for an audience, not against another. That's like saying, LGBT centers are an attack on heterosexuals. That is the same language that the right uses about having a gay agenda. And that is fundamentally absurd. I would say it's hostile and dismissive of humanity. People can't control if they're thin or not. Better to write for both and be versatile, in my opinion. I agree. I think there should be more stuff available and more writers who are, I think the self-publishing, the music industry has gone through the same thing. The self-publishing availability of art, and even being able to go on YouTube and do kind of stuff like this, opens the conversation up to finally have it. So that's awesome. I recently had a review where a person was like, she said, we get it, but because I don't shy away from descriptions, but no one says anything about the descriptions of thin folks, which is the norm. It isn't the norm, though. 60% of Americans are overweight or obese. It's the fantasy. It's the norm in fantasy now. It's not the norm in reality. The norm in America is overweight. Can't help being cishet. I was born this way. Right. I think cisgender is a slur, personally. I respectfully disagree how one is being pushed as the way to be rather than fighting for its place. Well, I don't know that it's thin per se. I mean, I think we've pushed back a lot on the really anorexic looking models that we've gotten away from the sort of the Kate Mossing of stuff. That was certainly being pushed for a while, and it was bizarre and unhealthy and grotesque. And like the kind of anorexic looking model kind of thing is still exists in some point in Europe, but certainly less today. But I mean, literally in society, I think there is more a push towards that. You know, if there's a thin push in a direction, it's towards athleticism and working out, but not thin just for thin's sake. And I think it is pushed as a way to be as an alternative to especially obesity for health reasons. Cisgender is not a slur. It's the opposite of transgender. No, it isn't. Cisgender presumes that my gender was assigned by a doctor at birth and not a reality to me. It turns my gender into a label as opposed to a state of existence, which if you're talking about the denial of people's existence, that's exactly what it is. It's part of the dissatisfaction of industrial complex that targets women almost exclusively. I don't doubt it, but it's also the audience for it exists in there. And so, you know me, I'm always more about changing hearts and minds. Sometimes the industry is in charge of it, but a lot of times people are playing, you know, they end up going right back, and there's, quote, a backlash to things. And it has nothing to do with backlash. It's just that whatever was being sold doesn't sell. And unfortunately, it reflects badly on the diversity argument or the societal move forward we're trying to make happen, because it tried a top-down approach. It is the trickle-down economics of societal change in some cases, if that makes sense. It would effectively be it is it's trickle-down social change. Until we can live equally without labels, they are important. How? Why is that important? And that means in practice and in law. Why is it important to label me as such? Which we don't have right now anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. Okay. I grew up at romance novels with nobody who looked like me at all. I found books I loved and characters I loved, no problem. Right. Sound like Roman, I don't know, ripe for influx of diversity, like has happened in other areas of entertainment. Yeah, and I think that has to come from authors. And Ginger, you know I've talked about this too, is that I think Hollywood needs women writers. And it's the one area where I don't know why, but there's just fewer of them selling scripts in town for the big stuff. The issue is there's a lot of female writers out there, and this is a vast generalization, but it's experience to what like scripts that come across is that there's a lot of great female sci-fi writers, there's a lot of great female fantasy writers and the like. They tend to end up working in television, staying in a group and not writing a script and breaking out for lots of different reasons. But when they do make a movie, they have a tendency, like a lot of especially left-leaning male writers, to do very personal, smaller pictures. And I think there needs to be sort of an Elon Musking of that. I think the Galen Herds of the world, really taking sci-fi by the reins, moves the ball for everybody in a bigger sense. So and I celebrate you being in there and writing your genre, your stuff. And I think that's how it grows organically too. I cannot live anywhere in the world as a lesbian and feel safe and protected by law, not even the most liberal parts of Europe and Canada. That's not true. I mean, I can't tell you how you feel, but you are protected by law in a lot of them. Even in the most liberal parts of Europe and Canada, that is materially untrue. I mean, again, you can feel unsafe anywhere, but as far as the law goes, you absolutely do have equal rights. I'm left-handed, cisgender, lesbian, and there should be no issue with others saying who they are out loud. You can call yourself whatever you want, of course. What does left-handed have to do with it? Ginger, if the majority of Americans are like me and overweight and most characters are thin, then by reason aren't people who already reading stories about characters that don't look like them? Undisciplined pride. I think that, people tend to read fantasy stories. I mean, most boys who read, comic book superheroes don't look like comic book superheroes. They're aspirational. And there's an element of aspirational art that sells better than reflective art. That's always been the case. Now we're trying to shift that, and I think that has to do with self-publishing and self-reflection, and I think to some degree the Instagram narcissism factor has shifted that as well. Being left-handed is a minority status, Al. Yeah, but it's not a minority status. It's not the same as being a racial minority that's being discriminated against. There's a statistical minority aspect of it, but it's not a derogatory. It's actually, yeah, it's a minority physiology. Yeah. People, no one is shamed for being left-handed in modern Western society anymore, by any stretch. And if you want to classify it as a disability or something because everything is made for right-handed people. Everything isn't made for right-handed people. My son's left-handed. I bought him a left-handed guitar for it. My sister's left-handed. But that's just a volume thing. Again, that's not corporations going, we're going to discriminate against left-handed people actively. It is simply they only sell so many because by volume, human beings are categorized into these groups by size and volume, and they're going to sell the most where they're available. I still shame the left-handed, but I'm old school. Well, yeah, Nacho too. You do, of course. My wife is left-handed. I like to think I'm made for her, and I'm right-handed. There you go. I don't trust publishers with my books. They used to do this joke in Boy Scout camp. They would send us off looking for a left-handed monkey wrench. And kids would go off running all over the place looking for a left-handed monkey wrench. And they would never be able to find one. Because monkey wrenches aren't handed, or screwdrivers, or hammers, or saws. I think probably the one thing that they could find a better example of, like, I have these scissors are ambidextrous scissors, for example, right here. They don't have a slope on the inner part aimed at any particular side. Like, that's how I buy them, whatever. And certainly some big sets of scissors, like at craft stores, Hobby Lobby, figures. Yeah. They obviously are anti-left-handed because of the Christic aspect of not trusting someone left-handed, because you can't shake hands with them because they might have a weapon in the other hand, right? Hal, when you have to learn everything the opposite way than your hands want to do naturally, that is being a minority status. Yeah, but by volume, not by discrimination. Society's habits in those regard is not the same thing. It just isn't. And I mean, I don't know what you were taught as far as writing left-handed or right-handed. And my son's learning to write left-handed. And the pink tax is a real thing that is sexist as hell. Which part of the pink tax? Like, I believe personally, for example, that women should be able to, I'll give you an example. I think women should be provided elements for their menstrual cycle, whether they use tampons or pads or something like that, for free by the U.S. government. I think that should be provided for the reproductive health of all American women, for example. That being said, if toothpaste is sold, or like hairspray or other stuff is sold to women and they price it higher because it gives the illusion of worth and women are, will spend more for it. That's a corporate thing. And, buy our razors. Spiral notebooks are made for right-handed people, for example. Okay. I don't know that there's a huge market for left-handed spiral notebooks. I don't know that there's a huge market for spiral notebooks, for example. They certainly are annoying when you're trying to draw.
Good afternoon.
Hello. I don't know why Siri decided that. Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of women's reproductive health that we in the West can afford to provide, and it should be as a baseline. If you want more stuff, no, I'm saying that a pink scooter costs more than a blue scooter one in the toy section. They're also made with more flowery elements because they will not be as mistreated, is the theory. They're less resilient, at least in thought. I don't know that I've ever seen, when I've been shopping with my son, a pink scooter or a blue scooter that was cheaper or more expensive than the other one. That's another form of the pink tax. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting really animated right now. Okay. Sorry, Hal, I disagree. Women are forced to pay more because of corporations will always make money where they can't. That's what I'm talking about. Women will pay more for that rather than use the equivalent male item. Or the expectation, men are also, I'll give you an example. Usually the men's section of a store is upstairs or in the back because women will meander shop and men will not. Men will go in, and if they've gone further into the store psychologically to buy something, they're more likely to leave having bought something than if they walk in, it's in the front, they take a look, and then they go out. If they've committed to simply walking an extra 50 feet or going upstairs to the back, and so it's why they strategically put the male area of shopping in the back of stores. Question for you fashion folks. Why is it that men's shirts and jackets button down the left side or the right, but women's wear is designed with the right over the left? Because women were dressed by someone else as a sign of class? And the other thing was men's clothing was the idea that you would be carrying something in your left and your right hand would be active, so you would undo your own garments. And the expectation is women wouldn't undo their own garments while their hands were full. That kind of idea. Yeah, the part of the reason why the idea is that men had to undo their jackets and stuff while carrying things, which was the shift, which is women were not supposed to be carrying things and unbuttoning their clothing, I suppose, at the same time, but men working would do that. It has to do with the functionality of male clothes versus the functionality of women's clothes. Why do I have to go to the male section? Because you're buying male clothes? I don't know. You don't have to, I suppose. Nothing stopping you from buying women's clothing and wearing them. Go look at articles about the pink tax, and I'm sure it'll blow your mind. Okay, so let's give that a shot, shall we? So, pink tax. Well, that's right. Okay. Okay. Let's see, find an article on it. Value Penguin. Pink tax forces women to pay more than men. The pink tax has many women seeing red when it comes to gender inequality. Whether it's razors, dry cleaning, or toys, women still pay more for those gender-specific items than men. Studies show as Women's History Month draws to a close, gender-based pricing remains a stubborn issue that is yet to be solved, right along with equal pay for equal work. Which is, by the way, the law of the land. If you're not being paid the same as one of your fellow employees, you should sue. Price discrimination adds another layer to the wage inequality women face, making it harder sometimes for women to make ends meet. CEO of the Women's Foundation of California, a group devoted to advancement of gender equality. Bureau of Labor Statistics says it's a decade between 2004 and 2014, women earned 80% to 83% as much as men. Okay. Pink tax, let's see. Apparel. Girls' clothing costs 4% more than boys, and women's clothing costs 8% more than men's. A side-by-side comparison of red short-sleeve polo shirts used as uniforms showed a $2 difference, despite being no obvious difference in style or quality. Both came from the same retailer. Toys. Girls' toys and accessories cost an average of 7% more than boys' toys. Separately, a side-by-side comparison of two Radio Flyer My First scooters showed this. A red scooter cost $24.99 and a pink scooter cost $49, despite them being identical in all other ways. Okay, is that not willingness to pay? Or the idea is that one of the other ways you could read, especially the toy one, and I'm curious how you guys think about it, is that parents are not willing are willing to spend more on girls' toys because they don't believe they will be destroyed, and they will spend less on boys' toys. They won't buy it unless it's cheaper because they know it will get destroyed. Only running I got chubby, so when I diet running, slowly lost 25 pounds. We can only change what we can change. There you go, Robert. Personal care. Women's personal care costs 13% more than men's, according to department study. They also have more fragrance and color oftentimes. Normally, consumers look to supply and demand to remedy inequalities. If prices get too high on a market service, someone finds out how to provide cheaper, but not all markets are perfect, said Michael Cohn, a customs attorney who filed a lawsuit in the U.S. Court of International Trade in 2007 that raised the broader question of whether different tariff rates for men's and women's apparel violate constitutional equal protection provisions. Case was dismissed. That's interesting. So the retailer, when they're buying stuff from other countries, the tariff rates for men's and women's clothing are different. So the retailers aren't making that decision. Something categorizes coming out of certain countries, they send them as men and women's clothing. Service providers say that women's dry cleaning and haircuts tend to be more labor and time intensive. That's true in general, which is why women are willing to pay higher prices. Dry cleaners also use pressing machines traditionally built for men's shirts, need to hand press women's shirts, a more labor-intensive and costly process. Women's other smaller and tapered clothes are typically not suited for these machines. Unisex machines exist at half the price of man-sized machines, but press fewer items of clothing per hour. Women rally for CEO of Retail of New York State, a statewide retail association, looks to different points along the supply chain that may explain price differences in seemingly identical products. Retailers see women as their biggest target. Research and development, following trends, meeting trends, advertising products on television and in magazines are not cheap. Companies are willing to spend more money advertising to women than they are towards men, contributing to the price discrepancies. So basically, the price of a garment, selling it to women because they buy more clothing, factors into the cost of the clothing itself, whereas men are not as, allegedly is not, according to this, convinced by advertising as much, so they spend less money on advertising for men and therefore don't have to recoup that cost in the items. Willing to spend indicates there are options, Hal. Fat clothes cost more too. They size of the garment, but yet men's clothes tend to be cheaper. Is that a design thing? That's a horrible argument. Which one? Because there's a couple of different arguments they made for it. Yeah, and again, the scooter thing is real apparently, but it has, in theory, it has to do with how long the expectation of the toy will last, and whether or not the parents will invest in stuff that will or won't. Both those toys will last as long. It's a shuck and jive by the business. Bum bags, Nacho Tube. They're called bum bags. Britt goes to a store in the mall and gets anything she wants for like $10 each. Right. Well, she's shopping in the teen girls section because she's tiny. I go to Target and get my stuff and it starts at 40. Right. A mani pack, right? What did people do before pockets? They live without possessions. Well, big and tall men's stores, the suits there cost more for men. There's also a lot more willing to spend indicates their option. Well, there are certainly more options in women's clothing than there are on men's, right? There's a much broader array of available styles and fits and wears and shapes in female clothing than there is in male clothing, right? And so the advertising for women's clothing would be a lot more specific, I think, right? It's hard to keep up with everybody's kind of comment on this, so if I'm stepping on anybody's argument, I apologize. I'm trying to... I don't know how I ended up being devil's advocate in that circumstance, but there you go. Hey, Ginger, if my wife has some questions for CBD oil, can she contact you? Absolutely, yes. Ginger she's the resource you would need for that. I do pay more if I get XXL over an XL. I will say, those of you that have been to my shows, when I sell T-shirts, they're all the same size. I mean, they're all the same price, no matter what size. I have multiple sizes from, small to triple XL, and they're all the same price. So there, I'm doing my part. I'm trying. And I don't know, by the way, Carrie, I don't know if you were saying my argument was wrong or the one I was reading. That was an article in USA Today about pink tax. So I don't know which argument you meant. So let's see. I think it's supply and demand situation. If I want it and you're the only one who has it, you make me pay through the nose. I don't know it will ever change. I doubt, you mean? I donut. There's a little Freudian slip. Do you have white T-shirts? No, I have gray ones. I don't really make white T-shirts. I don't wear white T-shirts, so I haven't really made those, but I should. I have about 24 green T-shirts. Do they run big or small? It's hard to say because most of the shirts I get are like the it depends on how like the American Apparel shirts wear on you. I mean, it's always the hardest thing trying to stock up on how many shirts I should bring. I can never tell. It's all over the map. As far as, what people want to buy, and when it's the hardest part of doing merch. I have boobs. I can't really buy men's clothing. Right? Thanks, QAF. I appreciate that. I see more options in the men's section or online for clothes. Well, no, I mean, you have basically in the men's section, you have T-shirts, button-downs, polos, long and short sleeve, slacks, jeans, like somewhere in between, and suits. And all the suits have a variant thing in there. Button-down shirts, short sleeve or long sleeve, or basically it's, patterns after that. In women's clothing, there's obviously a ton more options of variant clothing going on there. And so to make up for the different styles that they're selling, and that makes sense that they would add 50 cents to $1 or whatever to almost everything to cover that advertising price. I'm saying that there are things in life that are skewed towards white cishet men, and we need to dismantle that so the playing field can be even. Like what? Like what? Understand how everyone is different. House shirts are slightly heavier, weight, soft, fit well. Thank you. Can't stop lying. I try. They're wearable though. Quarter zip, long sleeve. Okay. Gonna be heading to a wedding next weekend. All right. Oh, I see. For like wearing a button-down white shirt, you mean? Yeah, I was so focused on meeting out, I missed checking out the shirt. That happens all the time. I'm terrible at selling merch. That's why I'm trying to get better at all that aspect of it. That's why I keep, pushing the Patreon, pushing all that stuff. I'm like, I gotta somehow start making this make sense or whatever, so that I can get my agents off my back when I, pick and choose some stuff. Everything. That's pretty broad. Everything? Everything. Everything is aimed at white cishet men. Everything. Then why do they die 10 years before? Why do they die 10 years earlier? If everything is aimed at them. Because I get some things are, no question. But you're saying everything. So why do they en masse die 10 years before their wives or partners? So, yeah. I have a hard time getting suit jackets. Most are too large for 5'7" men. Yeah, I have to get, I have to get everything I wear tailored. Do you have a merch table at your shows? I do. Yeah. And I bring stuff. I missed merch through the years. I get to see just how, right? You need someone there to help. Cough, cough. Yeah. Ginger, you're hired for all the LA gigs. You totally signed your autograph on the merch table, which was a good strategy, but my head was in another place. Yeah. House shirts, more specifically, are the Gildan soft style ring spun, 100% cotton, comfy, wear them all. Awesome. Well, thank you. Can't stop lying. I catch hell because my profit margin on my shirts is lower because I get the better quality shirts, but I just don't get the whole kind of like hard cotton, like work tee kind of feel. It won't be wearable for 100 years. Yeah. Yeah. Hal often wears space themed t-shirts to his shows, which I think is cool. Well, Carl, that is part in deference to you, especially when I'm, doing shows in that area, and to the topic that I'm talking about. And I'm glad we get to have our little breakout conversations occasionally before shows. It certainly feeds into what I've done. So you have played no small part in that regard. And also because my girlfriend is a big, like NASA head, and, Summer loves space stuff or whatever. So it's sort of, deference to her as well. So, I blame doing the yard work in the hot sun. Right. Mental floss. I'm so tall they have to buy XL shirts for the length, but then they're very roomy. Yeah, well, that's, it's interesting because I wear small shirts now, which are the exact same size as a medium shirt was in 1992. I have not gotten taller. My shoulders have gotten a little wider, I guess, but I'm I wear a small now instead of a large because America has shifted in sizes. Because America, a current small is what a medium used to be because of how much bigger Americans are getting in general. And these are relative sizes. I try, Robert. I mean, I feel this is a thing I have. Like, let me show you guys something. I have these. Where are they? Where are you? Okay, so I have these bracelet things that I've had forever. That I want to sell at shows or whatever, and so I got this silly idea a while back because carrying CDs and that kind of stuff has always been weird in this modern day. So I had these little bracelets made that are like little fan bracelets, and they're a USB drive. So now so I can put like songs and other stuff on them, and you wear them as a bracelet, and then you can download what's on it onto your hard drive, and then you now have a wearable USB bracelet you can take anywhere you want. So that seemed to make a lot of sense to me. And I have still yet to make them and take them out because I've been slightly like embarrassed at the idea. It's so silly. Like this, you guys know, I've been trying to like get better at this stuff for a long time. So, and they've got my name, my Chinese name, and my band's name on there. And so they'll have like a copy of Alcatraz, Escape from Alcatraz, and a copy of Charmageddon, and a copy of, some of my band music videos that I've made myself, and some stand-up that isn't available elsewhere, and that kind of stuff. But just for fans, just for like people who really want the stuff, and then you can have that afterwards. So this is the first round of them, and then I'm gonna make I think, because it's an experiment, and once I do that, then it's just easier for me to get stuff to you. When can we get those? Oh, well, within a couple of weeks, because I've got a pile of them, and I've just got to like make what's going to go in them, and then spend all time, copy them. I got a USB jack that allows me to do multiple ones at once. So we all eat and drink too much crap. This is true. Absolutely. Thanks, Ginger. I appreciate that. It's funny because I talked, Summers, does Mark Savard's show, and I talked to him a while back because he had CDs and all this stuff, and I'm like, he just needs to do USB drives, and then I finally took my own advice. But the great thing about this is that, yeah, it's got all my stuff on it, but once you download that stuff to your hard drive, then you can have this, and then you use it all the time. I don't know. I think $25 is normal. Something like that. I think, that seems to be the realm of things. It's a lot for that. I mean, these are kind of expensive because I think they're all 16 gig. Because that's the other thing too, is you can get cheap ones made for 4, that are 4 gigabyte or something. You can buy those in a pile. But to me, they're, it's just wrong. Like, don't sell something that's that crappy, like that's just like, who's going to use a 4 gig USB drive these days, right? So anyways, that's my feeling on it. So a terabyte on my wrist, I'm in. That's the next one. Fruit and vegetables also used to be smaller. Yeah, that's true. Not 100% a bad thing. But I'm glad you approved, Ginger. That, like, you made me feel a lot better about it. So I will definitely love to see the rare stand-up. Excellent. Chinese fiber bamboo underwear. I have a pair of those. Those actually aren't bad. How do they compare for the premium $14 underwear in department store? All right. I learned this week that Ford is phasing out its Focus and Fusion cars. Okay. The 3 Fs. Do you get rings or do you get the rings or ring? The ring or rings? You're wondering size. Oh, yes. Not yet. You are too. I'm just asking. Yeah. So anybody, just for you guys, what's your ring size? If you know, just throw it up in the chat for me. I keep asking myself why everyone needs a crossover vehicle. Well, I mean, urban commuter car meets what if there's a snowstorm? That's what people are thinking. And how easy is it to put your child into a car seat? Major factor. I like to say I didn't eat sugar or drink alcohol the day that I didn't cut the huge progress for an emotional binge eater. Good for you. 6, 7, okay. Ring size is big. That's all I can tell you. That's because you have big knuckles, Carl. It's not because you have big puffy fingers or something. 10.5. Wow. 10.5. Yeah. Yeah, I wear 10s, but I wear 11 on this finger because it's got the screw in it. Depends which finger. Like ring finger, middle finger. Usually. 13. Holy smokes. UVs are very versatile. I love my Mazda CX-5. Mm-hmm. I'm a dog walker, so I need a crossover. I have a 20-year-old CRV. Yeah. I think it has much to do with just weather variability. You want to talk about climate change affecting, you're going to see a lot more people buying crossovers. Dude, when I was in Dubuque and Cedar Rapids and drove back and forth to Chicago to do the radio show and back, I have never seen so many overturned cars in the snow and than I did on the Iowa side of the border going back. And, back and forth between there and Chicago. It was gnarly. And it was like they gave up snow plowing close to Dubuque or something. Like, nobody's coming here. Who cares? I got HF, but I didn't drink, and I had a Magnum. Highlights Chicago 16 softball finger, right? Yeah, I mean, I have the FJ Cruiser, and I call it Camden's Tank. That's why I got it. It has suicide doors on it, and which means you can't open the back door without opening the front door, which, as old as he gets, he would never be able to accidentally open the door and fall out of the car. That was a factor in me picking it up. And it's got side impact airbags and basically a rumble cage. Like, it's basically, I bought it because I'm trying to protect my son in crazy traffic. And I have been struck in that car hard twice, and the car suffered 0 damage. Like cosmetic warbles and a flat tire when I was rear-ended. Some of you may know when I did the, that show at the Ice House when I was supposed to do a stand-up show, and I'd been in an accident that day. I ended up doing an hour just on the accident, and that was the show. And, in the case of, that, like, I was like 6 other cars were completely devastated. They took them away on flatbeds, and my car, there are child locks on a lot of modern ones, but Camden is smart, and like there's all sorts of ways. So yes, you can always do that, but it was a factor in just the material part of that, and it mattered to me. I'm a little nuts that way, so. So needless to say, like, it was it's why I wanted to do, why I wanted that car. And I like it a lot. I mean, I love driving it and the like. And the great part of it is being able to, load my son into the vehicle, Do you have any recommendations for restaurants or things in Cleveland by any chance? I will ask my cousin and everybody, because my cousin lives there. I have a lot of family. I spend most Christmases there these days. My catfish lives in Cleveland. Stop by and say, "Aw." Always hated Hummers, basically vehicles for annoying macho Republican males. Yeah. Or people who are expecting the big one in California. So hold on, I need to look at this. if I can find this on iTunes. Yeah, there it is. So, go to iTunes, open this guy up. Okay, that's fine. No. So yeah, so there's a. Is it in pull? No, it's not there. I have a special. Canceled. Never mind. Don't worry about it. Okay. I'll put this here for the time being. Oh, that's weird. All right. I have a new album on iTunes called Recreation. That is that show from being in the car accident. And it's finally up. It actually went up. That's crazy. Go figure. Yeah, it's the big one, Fred Sanford. I'll be there next weekend. Okay, cool. I'll look it up. Yes, the Christmas Story House is great. Also, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, although I have a chip on my shoulder because they removed Alan Free's ashes and replaced them with a thing on Beyonce's dresses, which I think is sacrilege and rude. Alan Free is the radio DJ who coined the phrase rock and roll. And and what did they do? They threw his ashes out, gave him back to his family, said, "See ya, wouldn't want to be ya," and replaced him with Beyonce's clothing. Are you and your son okay? Yes, we are fine. Can you put it on Amazon Music? I think it is on Amazon Music. I just found that this weekend. How I'm stunned to see the new material. Oh, yeah. Thank you. How about the R&R Hall? Oh, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah. Ashes to Ashes, right. Yeah, we've been on for a bit, kids. This has been a good long one. Not to give anything away, Hal, but is this the same SUV you've been driving for a few years? Yes. It is. And I love that friggin' thing. Yeah, it's a Toyota. Do you have any recommendations for ring size, same as your hat size? You get your finger blocked? How does that work? I agree. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just added the Cars last year, I believe. One of my favorites. That's cool. Bugs me the concerts are held in New York and not in Cleveland, where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. I agree. Donna's in the hall, not rock at all. I completely agree. I don't know why this focus on dance music. It's like in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame instead of I don't know why there isn't. I mean, I think there's an R&B Hall of Fame or something along those lines that, but like dance music in and of itself, like it makes, I don't get it. Super weird. Can't believe that someone cut the damn stems off your tires the other. I know, that was crazy. Yeah, I just had to replace the tires. It was a nice, $400 in an afternoon. Good times. Thanks, guys. That was sweet. Yeah, it was a very strange thing. Like, because still haven't quite gotten to the bottom of it, Did I forget to tell people that I got medals at the gay games in 2014? No, you did forget to tell us. That's awesome. Congratulations, Jude. Love Summer was looking at info about moving into New Zealand like I was. Yeah, about the thing. Rosie O'Donnell and her ex-wife Kelly Carpenter have reconciled with their daughter Chelsea after a long period of time. So glad this happened. Chelsea had a baby girl, so they're grandmas. So massive sidebar. Apparently Rosie O. I see. Tires had a big, yeah. No, I replaced both the tires. They were gacked, yeah. Well, because the car's heavy and they were sat on overnight, I guess, on the rims and squashed into it. So weird. How can they prove everyone competing is gay? That's a good question. There's a you want to talk about a whole like can of worms. What's the generalized feeling on trans athletes in violent sports? What's the like in boxing and wrestling and that kind of stuff? Because I have my concerns after a couple of things I've seen. So that's the show Recreation where I was almost basically I was all set to do a show I'd been working on, and then I was so freaked out by the having just been in an accident that I ended up doing the whole show about that, and it turned out to be really fun. Al, you going to be doing any more of those random late night streams? Yes, I am, because I'm going to be editing like a maniac. Well, we're very proud of you, Jude, and we're proud to have you here with us. Thank you, Carl. You know, there's Carrie that Australia has a lot of gay people in it, and a pretty decent scene there as far as acceptance and their ability to get around. They leapt ahead of California early on for a while. I'm sure there's certainly a lot of bogans that they have to deal with, but I disagree. Trans women should be able to compete in sports with cis women. Go ahead and go read what the AMA is. The MMA fighter that cracked that woman's skull, the trans woman who cracked the cis woman's skull, there is a material difference between the tendons and bone structure of somebody who had testosterone running through their system most of their life and then transitioning. I think there's arguably an argument to be made when people are transitioning at a much younger age, it's less of a factor. But it definitely is it matters in there that like I worry sometimes for some of the women competing. In the media, there's a lot of anti-LGBT sentiment in Australia, though, and most of the newscasters are white there. Yeah, most of them are Australian. How do you feel about the Chinese media's feeling towards LGBT people by comparison? That's cool, Carrie. If Mike Tyson was trans, no way I'd want him to fight a genetic woman insanity. That's right. There is I mean, if you're going to start arguing why have male and female separation in sports at all, then make that case and make it, people fighting by, kind of weight class only. But there's a lot that should go into that. And I think it requires a more patient approach, personally. Doesn't mean they can't, but it should be case by case, and a lot of care and thought should be put into that, I think. Tricky subjects, never really got into the worldwide flooding and storms. Let's see. Company where I work, Ultimate Software, is really invested in the conversation of diversity. I was able to watch a lecture by a trans woman. They had teach about diversity during Pride last year. That's cool. And Reagan gave Murdoch citizenship ahead of others who were here longer. People pay to get to the front of the line quite often. It's a really fascinating topic. It's hard for me as a person who's never really thought about it. What am I like to be trans? I love the opportunity to learn. Right. Do you have different merch at your shows than you do on your website? Sometimes, yeah. Like the bracelets they'll probably only be available at shows right now. Which trans people, Carrie? It has made me more aware of the hate they face. I'm assuming you don't mean Blair White. Huh. Yes, that blind genetic woman is not the correct term. He's just trying to make a distinction, Carrie. He's not trying to be rude. Only trans person I know voted for Trump. Mm-hmm. I know 2 who did. When are you in LA or San Francisco next time? We want to see you. I don't know when the next LA show is, but it'll be fairly soon because I'm working on a show. I go to speaking of like LGBT shows at the Halifax Comedy Festival. I'm doing 2 of their LGBT shows as a stand-up. I'm not 100% sure why they booked me for that, other than obviously we shot Queer as Folk in Canada, and obviously my comedy is supportive and inclusive and whatnot. But that's coming up next month in April. So yeah, let's see if I think I have my latest update of, there we go. Sorry. Updated routing. There it is. So, yeah, April, yeah, so March 1st and 2nd, I did Arlington. Yeah, April 25th, 26th, and 27th, I'm at the Halifax Comedy Festival in Canada, in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I will be doing a couple of their like television shows around the comedy festival up there. So that should be fun. Marianne Williamson is running for president. I am aware of this. I donated to her. I loved your phobia bit. Thank you, Zelda. I appreciate that. Got to go, everyone. Have a good week. Thank you, WWS. I got to go, too. I've been on for a long time. So much love to you guys. I should sign off as well. I appreciate the conversation and everybody being there to have it. I'm glad you're back, Carrie. I'm glad we can have these talks. 416. All right. 32. Youngins. Completely surrounded by youngins. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're just seeing the show later on, or if you've clicked in here and you want to stick around for a 4-hour live stream. Oh, good Lord. Whatever it was. Like and subscribe to the show. Help us out. It's always useful. Spread the love. And I'm going to be doing more short videos. I'll be posting one later on today, as a matter of fact, that will be up, and maybe even have a preview of it, or whatever, premiere. So that kind of thing. Jungians, that's right. Let's see. Just like he doesn't like him, he's word. Who are we talking about? Focused on 2020 currently. That as well and good. Please give us at least a month notice. Plane tickets are a killer to close the date. I will, absolutely. Awesome. Okay, well, take care of yourselves, guys, and take care of somebody else, and we will see you next time. And sorry about the split chat and all that crazy stuff, and I'm glad we finally worked this out, and big hugs all around. I want you to fight for the equality of the most marginalized of us humans. Okay? Cool. Bye, Hal. Have a great week. Okay, you too. Thank you. Big hearts, everybody. Thanks for the super chats. Greatly appreciate it to everybody who did. And to the new Patreon people. I can't see because it didn't come up quite yet on there, but I will mention you later on. If you're part of the blue patch brigade already and you feel like, oh, look at that, we've gone up to 10 patrons. We got 2 more. Thanks, guys. So over like $5 or $10 a month, becoming a Patreon supporter, and then you can put in there your I think the $5 a month thing is just it gives, you can put your address in and I can send you a blue patch, and that blue patch gets you a guest to any of my shows. So if you buy a ticket for yourself, you can bring a guest for free. There you go. And then from that, I can also, because everybody's in the Patreon cycle, that in every couple months, if I want to, I can go, okay, everybody's getting a t-shirt, everybody's getting a sticker, those kind of things. It allows me to do that much easier than my website did. So if you can sign up on patreon.com/HalSparks, I really appreciate it, you guys. If you can't do $5 or $10 a month or whatever, you can do 1. That's totally fine. It's all super appreciated, and it all goes right into the mechanics of the show and making it happen or whatever. And eventually getting us to where we can get like that studio bridge back and forth between me and Jay in Chicago and all that kind of stuff. That's next level Tom Hartman gear. Anyways, you guys are wonderful. Thanks so much for your support on and on, and for having the conversations that we have. I super appreciate it. So we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye. Take care. See you later. Let's see. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. Oh, you guys.